Hello. All right, good morning, everybody. The room it's not raining this morning. So I think that response should be more energetic. Don't forget we are here at the Adewunmi Desalu Parkinson Center, where what we do is continuous activity. Energy rolling every day, 247. So, good morning and welcome to the third annual Parkinson's Disease Symposium, hosted by the Adewunmi Desalu Parkinson's Foundation, in commemoration of the posthumous birthday of Dr. Adewunmi Desalu. We're excited to have you here today. And those of us that are joining online, we want to appreciate you. Today is going to be an all-interactive session. So the panelists will be presenting, and we will expect the audience and the participants to also make their comments or, ask questions. So nobody's going to leave this place without saying something. I'm sure we are ready for that. Don't worry, we are going to manage your time very well. So without wasting time, I would like to just call on our guests so they can, come to the reserved chairs. Okay, I can see Professor Adekunle Mustafa sitting at the rear. Please, can you just help him? Put your hands together for him as he comes forward. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Please have your seat. Thank you. We have a very tight agenda, and we are going to roll very fast so that we can manage your time. So for our online participants, we would like you to just tell us your name and where you are logging in from. We would like to also acknowledge that. And all right, are we set? Okay, so I will just call out the names of our guest panelists, and you will appreciate them as they are seated. We have Dr. Isaac Akinola. Please put your hands together for him. Thank you very much. We have Miss Rhoda Robinson. Please put your hands together for her. When the time comes, we are going to introduce them properly. And we are expecting Dr. Paul Agabi. He's on his way, and he will be joining us shortly. So without wasting much time, we would like to have our introduction documentary. Please, media team, can we have the introduction? Thank you.
Welcome to the Adewunmi Desalu Parkinson's Foundation, a home of hope, support, and strength for individuals living with Parkinson's disease in Nigeria. Founded in memory of Dr. Adewunmi Desalu, we are Nigeria's first dedicated Parkinson's disease rehabilitative center, committed to empowering lives and rewriting the narrative of Parkinson's awareness and care across Africa. From physiotherapy to handwriting classes, speech therapy, rock steady boxing, and dance classes, our programs are designed to restore confidence, mobility, and dignity, because we believe that through holistic rehabilitative care, people with a Parkinson's diagnosis can still live long, healthy, and happy lives. Our services are at no cost to the participants because we recognize that rehabilitative care should be accessible to everybody regardless of socioeconomic class. In addition, we provide medical assistance and support to persons who are unable to access necessary medication for Parkinson's disease in Nigeria. Beyond rehabilitative care, we also offer community. Through monthly support group sessions, caregiver education, and peer connection, we restore dignity, reduce isolation, and offer tools for resilience to people diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, their caregivers, and their family members. Awareness is one of our core goals, so we host advocacy campaigns, webinars, symposiums, and awareness walks to educate the public, train healthcare workers, and break the stigma of Parkinson's disease in Nigeria. Every awareness campaign and outreach, we are helping Nigerians affected by Parkinson's disease to access early diagnosis, accurate information, and the critical care that they deserve. We can't do this alone. Our work is not possible without our partners, volunteers, and donors who help us take several steps further to reach more people affected by Parkinson's disease in Nigeria. So we invite you to join us because together we can ensure that we have a Nigeria that has people who do not have to face Parkinson's disease alone anymore.
Thank you very much for that. So I think we get the gist, actually. Do we get the gist? All right. So in just less than 5 minutes, you understand what we do at the Adewunmi Desalu Parkinson's Foundation. So I would like to invite the chair, Governance and General Purpose Committee of the Governing Board to give the welcome address on behalf of the chair BOT. Thank you very much. Please, let's put our hands together for Miss Toyosi Olatunji. Please put your hands together. Our members online, please, can you just use the emoji and reaction to just appreciate her? Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. Distinguished members of the boards, distinguished members of Adewunmi Desalu Parkinson's Foundation, caregivers, panelists, healthcare professionals, and our friends. You're all very welcome to the 3rd Annual Parkinson's Disease Symposium organized by the Adewunmi Desalu Parkinson's Foundation. It's my honor to stand before you as we gather to address the theme, Shaping the Future of Parkinson's Care in Africa and Nigeria, Innovations, Challenges, and Collaborations. As we convene for this important symposium this morning, I want to first acknowledge the courage and resilience of all those living with Parkinson's disease across Nigeria and in Africa. Your daily strength inspires our work here at the Foundation, and it fuels our commitment to improving care and treatment options. Parkinson's disease affects millions worldwide, with prevalence increasing across all age spectrums. Yet in Africa, we face unique challenges: limited specialized neurological care, insufficient diagnostic resources and treatment options, barriers to medication access and affordability, lack of comprehensive data on Parkinson's prevalence and outcomes in our region, and also cultural misconceptions that can delay diagnosis and proper treatment. In spite of these challenges, we at the Adewunmi Parkinson's Foundation are encouraged by the remarkable progress that we have made since our first symposium. We continue to be at the forefront of efforts to transform Parkinson's care in Nigeria through education, advocacy, and direct support. This year's theme reflects our collective ambition to not only respond to the current challenges, but to actively shape a better future for Parkinson's care in Nigeria and across Africa. And this future must be built on 3 pillars. The first is innovation. So we'll be looking at exploring new approaches to diagnosis, treatment, and care that are both cutting edge and appropriate for our specific context. We must develop these solutions that work within our own healthcare systems and address our unique needs. In addressing challenges, which is the second pillar, we would look to confront obstacles head-on through policy advocacy, healthcare workforce development, and community education to destigmatize these neurological conditions. And the third is collaboration. We would look at strengthening partnerships between our members, their families, healthcare providers, researchers, policymakers, and different organizations, both locally and internationally. across public and private sectors. No single entity can transform Parkinson's care alone. Today, you will hear from distinguished experts, including our keynote speaker, Professor Adekunle Mustafa. Others are Dr. Paul Agabi, Mrs. Omotola Thomas, the founder of Parkinson's Africa in the UK, Dr. Isaac Akinola, and Ms. Rhoda Robinson. I encourage you to actively engage with our panelists, share your experiences, thoughts, and forge connections that will last beyond this symposium. Let's approach today's discussions with openness and determination, and also creativity. The insights that we generate here will have the potential to improve countless lives across our continent. The Adewunmi Desalu Parkinson Foundation remains committed to turning these conversations into concrete actions. Together, let's build a future where everyone living with Parkinson's has access to quality care, effective treatments, and the support they need to live with dignity. As we declare this third annual Parkinson's Disease Symposium open, I invite you to join us in making today a catalyst for meaningful change. Thank you.
Thank you very much for setting the tone for today's symposium. So right about now, we'll watch a short documentary that has been filmed from the Adewunmi Desalu Parkinson's Foundation, just to get an idea of some of the challenges that people with Parkinson's face here in this part of the world. So we'll have a short documentary. If you want the full version, you can go to our YouTube page and you can watch the full version. So, media team, please.
My name is Mrs. Shishai Deborah. I'm 46 years old. I'm a petite trader and a single mother. I have 6 children that I'm taking care of. Normally, before this Parkinson starts, I'm a hustler. I do my business anytime, as long as I cannot steal somebody's thing. I have farm, I work in my farm. I have shop that I'm selling. And I sell market to schools then. But in 2018, when I started having the symptom of this Parkinson, it weighed me down, slowed me down from doing some certain tests. Then, it's something that I'm not aware of what it's all about. I struggled with it from 2018 to 2021 before I was able to be diagnosed. The money to diagnose was very difficult. That was the reason why I couldn't get in touch of what is happening to me until 2021. First, they just give up on you that, this one, let him carry her across. Only God knows what he do and make this kind of sickness come the warrior. Some didn't even see it as a sickness. Some see it that they are possessed or there is evil spirits that they cast on you from your village.
People say that it's a curse or it's hereditary.
While walking on the road, maybe in the bus or inside NAPEP, trying to bring out money from my purse is always difficult. So some people will be like, why are you so slow? And they'll be using language on me like, I'm too slow, maybe something is wrong with me. Some people saw me as someone with communicable disease. Even in the family, they never understood what was going on. They felt I just wanted to be on my own, but I was like hiding it from everyone. I didn't want them to know that I was not feeling well.
And when I was diagnosed and the doctor told me that this is Parkinson and I should go and look for Atin, it was very difficult for me to get the Atin in the pharmacist and to get the milligram that he prescribed for me. So I have to, somehow one of my household member told me that there's a foundation at Sulere that can be able to help me. I said, give me the number that I should call. When I call, they give me the address of the place. In short, it was a long journey, but immediately I get to ADPS, my joy was restored.
ADPF is an organization that is set out to provide care and support. Aside care and support, we do awareness. And our awareness cuts across interventions that can raise the knowledge of Parkinson's in Nigeria, like Move for PD, an awareness walk. We have symposium where we gather stakeholders to sensitize them about Parkinson's disease and what they need to do for people living with Parkinson's. And we have webinars. Aside that, we are focusing on care, where we provide adequate care, holistic care for people living with Parkinson's and their caregiver. And our care program cuts across physiotherapy engagement, dance, therapy, boxing, non-contact boxing. We have overcoming micrographia, which is one major intervention that helps the handwriting of people living with Parkinson's. We also have other extracurricular activities that help them cope with the symptoms. And we have a standard support group that helps them with their emotional well-being.
So I want the public to know that Parkinson's disease is not a death sentence, although there is no cure for it right now. But if it is managed properly, there's hope. And it also has to do with supporting the caregivers. In as much as there are people that have Parkinson's disease, they also need a very strong support system, and that's where caregivers come into play. Because of the good work that we do at Adewunmi Desalu Parkinson's Foundation, we are all for all the partnerships and the collaborations and the sponsorships that we can get to support us to be able to do the good work. We're non-profit, so we do need the financial support, technical support, any form of support that would be beneficial for us. So we're open for partnerships, we're open for collaborations, we're open for sponsorships.
All right, thank you very much. So now we understand that the Adewunmi Desalu Parkinson's Foundation is out for collaboration. This is one of our programs to raise awareness and to engage with stakeholders. And we have other programs that has been highlighted in the video. So if you want to collaborate with us, if you want to work with us, please, you can reach out to the foundation. Thank you very much. For the next couple of minutes, we will be having our keynote address by no other person than Professor Adekunle Mustafa. I'm going to just summarize his profile, because to be a professor of neurologist is not something that you achieve in a day. And there's a whole lot that is involved. So I'm just going to summarize his profile while he's standing for us to appreciate him, please. Professor Adekunle Mustafa is a professor of medicine and consultant neurologist at Babcock University, Nigeria, with expertise in neuroepidemiology and a psychosocial aspect of neurology disease like epilepsy and stroke. He holds an MBPS from the University of Ibadan and FMCP and a master's in neuroepidemiology and tropical parasitology from the University of Limoges, France. He's trained internationally in neurology and epilepsy, received multiple fellowships, including the AAN International Scholarship, and has authored authored over 35 scientific publications. He's a member of key neurological society and fluent in English and French. Please put your hands together for him. His profile is more than that. I just had to summarize it. So please, one more time, I would like us to put our hands together for him as I welcome him to take the keynote address, Shaping the Future of Parkinson's Care in Nigeria, Innovations, Challenges, and Collaborations. One more time, let's celebrate him.
Good morning, everybody. I want to appreciate the Adewunmi Foundation for giving me the opportunity to come and take this lecture. And I appreciate, and I'm really impressed by the great works they are doing on Parkinson's disease, in this, state, Lagos. And, doctors alone cannot do it. We need support group like the Parkinson, support group by Adewunmi that is doing a great deal of things. And I believe that will be of great help to our patient. So this morning, I'm going to talk on shaping the future of Parkinson's disease care in Nigeria. Okay. So that's the title of our discussion this morning, Shaping the Future of Parkinson's disease care in Nigeria and Africa, Innovation, Challenges, and Collaborations. Next slide. Well, Parkinson's disease, as we all know, is a progressive neurodegenerative disorder affecting movement control. It is characterized by tremors, bradykinesia, rigidity, and postural instability, among others. I'm not going to dwell so much on the basic and the clinical aspect of Parkinson's disease because I was told that a webinar was held about a month ago that dealt with that. Parkinson's disease is the second most common neurodegenerative disease and the fastest growing neurological condition in the world. The number of individuals affected by the disease is predicted to rise to 12.9 million by 2040. And this is described as the Parkinson pandemic. And the developing world will not be left out. As the population is increasing, the number of people also having Parkinson's disease is expected to rise. What is the relevance of this discussion to Africa, to Nigeria? There's increasing prevalence due to the aging population and improved life expectancy. As more people are aging and having long life expectancy, then you expect the prevalence of Parkinson to rise. A worldwide trend was first seen in high-income nations of non-communicable disease, which have grown in importance as a public health concern for Africa. And Parkinson's disease is a common movement disorder and is one of the significant neurological non-communicable disease in the aging African population. Next slide. Now, talking about the epidemiology of Parkinson's disease in Africa, prevalence rate range from 7 to 100,000 in Ethiopia to 67 per 100,000 in Nigeria. And age of onset mean onset of age of onset is about 69.4. But that does not mean that younger people are not affected. Yeah, we are seeing, younger people, young onset, Parkinson's disease that is, becoming also phenomenal. Now, there are genetic factors that also we need to know. And there's limited occurrence of mutation in established PD gene, especially among Nigerians, based on previous studies. And access to care, there's inadequate availability of treatment and trained medical personnel in Nigeria. And that's a big challenge. The number of, movement specialty disorder is quite few, and even the number of neurologists is also very few. A lot of people have even left the country. The next slide. Now, what are the challenges in Parkinson's disease care? Parkinson's disease is often enrobed in superstition, in myths, in discrimination. There are a lot of wrong notions about Parkinson's disease. Some associate Parkinson's disease with witchcraft, curses, or aging. And a sometimes people tend to avoid them because some people feel that it's contagious, and that's a misnomer. It's not a contagious disease. And usually that leads to delayed diagnosis and treatment. And the other challenge that we can also talk about is healthcare workforce shortages. There are few neurologists and allied health professionals in Nigeria. At the last count, there were about 200 neurologists for a population of 200 million. That's a far cry from what we expect. And also we also have infrastructural limitations, limited access to diagnostic tool and rehabilitation services. All over the country, we have less than 80 MRI machine for a population of 200. So people have to travel long distances to do MRI, even in unstable conditions. And economic barriers is also another challenge. The high treatment costs and lack of insurance coverage is something that is also problematic. The cost of levodopa, especially the branded one, is quite outside the reach of the common man. And talking about the other drugs, the dopamine agonists, those drugs are also quite expensive. The next slide. Decker et al. Explore the medical and therapeutic resources available for clinical care of Parkinson's disease in 4 sub-Saharan African nations: Tanzania, South Africa, Mali, and Nigeria. Out of the 4 African nations, South Africa has the highest number of neurologists, movement, problem specialists, and diagnostic tools. It is only country of the 4 that does deep brain stimulation. We can't do deep brain stimulation in Nigeria. That's one of the treatment technique reserved for refractory, Parkinson's disease. It's not done anywhere in this country. And that's a big challenge. Next slide. Despite having several hospitals and neurologists, Nigeria lack access to advanced care due to inadequate health insurance coverage and lack of DBS or PET and DAT scan capabilities. They had a patient that had, tremor and bradykinesia. We're not sure whether we're dealing with Parkinson's disease. Wanted to do DAT scan for the patient. Patient went around all over Lagos here. He couldn't get a place to do it. He had to travel to Turkey to go and do that procedure. So significant obstacles face Tanzania and Mali. Their problem is more serious than ours. The number of neurologists there is quite very few. They have a dearth of neurologists, restricted access to levodopa, and the absence of DBS and sophisticated imaging. Next slide. So what are the opportunities for improvement? 1, community engagement. Support group can reduce stigma and provide social support, like the Adewunmi Foundation is doing. They are doing a great deal of work, and we need to commend them. Then health literacy campaign, like initiative like the C Parkinson campaign. C mean support, education, and empowerment. And that initiative was, as a result of a collaboration between Parkinson Africa and the Consortium for Genetics Research, for Parkinson's disease. And I've been able to provide a booklet titled Understanding Parkinson's Disease, which was translated into about 11 languages, including Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, Pidgin English. So, and this offers culturally sensitive information that the layman can read about. Then telemedicine is also another opportunity that can improve access to specialist care. Next slide. Then talking about advances in care, multidisciplinary approach is very, very important, because when you look at Parkinson's disease, they have a lot of problems which are multifaceted. They have motor problem, non-motor problem, psychiatric problem, diet problem, and the doctor alone cannot address all these issues. So you need the service of physiotherapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, as well as dietitian. So all these things are very, very important. Then training programs, initiatives like the MDS, the Movement Disorder Society nurse training program, also enhance local expertise and capability. In areas where people cannot have access to doctor, if you have a nurse that is well trained in movement disorder, she can make a diagnosis and even initiate treatment with levodopa. Then support group, establish support group across Africa to provide community-based care. And this should be encouraged. What Adewunmi Foundation is doing, they should also encourage more people to rise and to provide this kind of care in other places. Because I think probably this foundation is only in Lagos, or is it across the country? Only in Lagos. A multi-sectoral approach involving government, pharmaceutical companies, and other important players is required to address the issue of drug availability and costs. As it has been done for retroviral drugs, when they were very expensive, the government has to subsidize it. So the government can play a part in subsidizing the cost of these drugs for PD, for Parkinson's disease. And enrolling people in health insurance programs and adding Parkinson's disease drug on the national drug formulary will be critical task for government throughout Africa. So it should be included in the essential medicine list so that government will give priority to that. Then if insurance can cover PD, patients will also have access to neuroimaging. That was a fallout of the study by Dr. Professor Okubadejo. Next slide. So talking about innovation in Parkinson's disease, I've talked about this, culturally sensitive educational materials, that is development of PD resources in local African languages. And the government can even do some educational program on Parkinson's disease on the TV, on the radio, in forms of advert, jingles, as well as drama to sensitize the people and to increase the awareness of the disease. Genetic research, initiative like the IPDGC, African Consortium, which aim to understand PD, Parkinson's disease genetics in the African population should be encouraged. Then affordable therapies. In the absence of, of the ability to afford orthodox medicine, a plant called Mucuna pruriens, which also has level dopa property, can be planted. The plantation can be encouraged so that people can have access to this. Next slide. So, well, as well of some problem with supply chain and industrial capacity limitation, some African nations struggle to get level dopa for their patient, and so this plant called Mucuna pruriens can, that contain level dopa, which grows well in the subtropics, can be grown by patient for personal use. And this and other options should be taken into consideration to address the PD pandemic by offering African-based answer to issues that are specific to Africa. So in conclusion, addressing PD in Africa requires tackling stigma, enhancing healthcare infrastructures, and fostering community engagement. Collaboration among government, healthcare providers, and communities is essential to improve PD care across Africa. Thank you. These are my references.
Thank you very much, sir. Please, you can take your seat here in front. No, in front, sir. Please, you can take your seat because we are having questions now for you. And please, from the online participant, please, if you have questions, I would like you to type in your question on the question tab. And if you are here and you have question, please, you can write your question down if you don't want to stand up and ask the question. But if you feel like asking your question without the fear of standing up, so we can give you the mic to ask question. I see a lot of information there that our members, we call them members, the people with Parkinson's here because of stigma, or we call them PD warriors, they are familiar with. So anybody, any question from the online participant, please? Do we have any question? Any questions? All right, one question, please. The microphone, please. Help me pass the microphone to him. All right. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. Thank you, Prof, for your wonderful presentation. So my question is, you spoke about mucuna prevalence. I know most in the medical field, they really do frown at traditional practice. Isn't that considered kind of like traditional? And how safe would you say the use of such plants is? Thank you.
You can.
Okay, this plant has been well studied and has undergone rigorous laboratory procedures, and it has been found to contain levodopa. So that's why it's being recommended. And that's not the only plant that's being used for neurological care. You know, there's a drug called ginkgo biloba that's used for dementia and all these things. It's gotten from the back of a tree called ginseng in China. So there are some herbs that have been well studied and can be helpful for the treatment of patients with neurological disease. Okay.
All right. Another question? Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
My name is Hyacinth Ezide. The question I have is that at the first time I have been diagnosed of this Parkinson's disease, I thought my life has been ended because the doctor told me that there is no cure for it. Then my question is that when the speaker is speaking, he mentioned DPS. Is it really working? Can it cure Parkinson's disease? That's my question.
Okay. DBS is deep brain stimulation. It cannot cure Parkinson's disease. You understand? It will offer symptomatic, relief for a very long time. Parkinson's disease is a progressive, degenerative brain disorder. So it's not just like malaria that you use a drug and all the symptoms disappear. The brain is already affected. So it will improve symptomatic relief for a very long time. And that's, what happens also when you start levodopa on time. When you start levodopa on time, the progression of the disease is slowed down. If somebody is diagnosed with Parkinson's and doesn't start medication, it can go from stage 1 year, to stage 5 within a very short period of time. But if you start medication on time, it can prolong, the disease process, and the patient can enjoy a good quality of life. Is that okay?
Thank you very much, Prof. My question... Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Please, my question is there any way one can prevent the Parkinson's disease? And also, is there any dietary advice you would give to people who are already having Parkinson's disease? If there's anything they can eat and things they can avoid, that will help the brain and the nervous system to cope with the situation they're going through. Thank you.
Sorry, Prof,
Okay.
my question is linked, so let me just link it to
Okay.
hers. So is there any role that genetic screening plays? So in a family of, where there's already Parkinson's, does genetic screening play any role for early detection so that people can obviously start working towards it?
Okay. So thank you very much for the questions. Can Parkinson's disease be prevented? Well, that's a bit tricky to answer, but there are some factors that have been associated with Parkinson's disease, like somebody who is a boxer and has a recurrent, punches to the head. That's a risk factor. And, people that take a lot of well water, okay, exposure to toxic chemicals, those things can lead to Parkinson's. So if you can avoid those things, then, you can avoid Parkinson's, okay? But there are some genetic causes of Parkinson's disease that you cannot, avoid, you understand? Especially some genes that are associated with Parkinson's disease. If you have a family history of Parkinson's disease, the likelihood or the propensity for you to have Parkinson's disease is very high, you understand? Although studies that have been done in Nigeria have not seen mutation in gene, has not been strongly linked with genetic mutation in Nigeria, but in Caucasian, as well as in North African countries, that has been well established, that there are definitely genetic mutations that can lead to Parkinson's disease, and it's run in families, okay?
Thank you very much, sir. Any other question? Okay.
Yeah, one can test it. There are some tests you can do. You can do some genetic studies that, some genes that have been linked with Parkinson. There are quite a number. Parking 1, parking 2, parking 3, parking 4. All these things can be tested. Well, I think the Professor Kubadejo did some studies, on Parkinson's disease when she studied the genetic mutations, and which was published. The gene,
Okay, all right.
Good
I
morning.
think maybe Dr. Agabi will be in a better.
All right, we are coming to that session where, most of the questions are going to be answered during the next panel sessions. But, all right, sorry, I want her to, sorry, sir, sorry. Okay, go ahead, ma, please.
Okay.
You're standing up, I don't want you
I want to ask a question concerning the plants. I don't know the name now. You say it will be, if we can try to get it or to plant. Yeah. For those of us that have a garden, how do we get the seed or the plant?
I don't know whether it's readily available in Nigeria, but it's available in Ghana. If you can make, contact with probably the Parkinson disease bodies in Ghana, we can get that plant or the seed so that we can encourage it to be planted in this environment. Okay. But I know Ghana and another country where the plant is widely grown.
Since you say Parkinson's disease does not have a cure, please, how long can one manage Parkinson's disease before giving up?
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
I've seen Parkinson's patients who have been on drugs for years, 10 years, 20 years, and they are doing fine. If you're on medication and you are living a good lifestyle, avoiding things that can, so they can live long, okay? Parkinson's disease is not a death sentence, okay? So if you're taking your medications and you start the medication early and you enjoy a good lifestyle and you avoid the things that can compound the problem, then there should not be any problem, okay? So.
Okay, so let me just quickly add something to what Professor Mustafa has said. Every disease condition wants a different cause with every individual. So some people who have hypertension can have a stroke. Some people who have hypertension may not have anything. Some people who have hypertension may develop kidney disease. So the way the Parkinson affects one person might be different from the way it affects another person. And the speed of progression differs from person to person. Some people may never have severe Parkinson. Some will. Some are slow progressors, some are fast progressors. So it's actually very difficult for you to see this is the timeline from diagnosis from when you will die. We also, who don't have Parkinson at the moment, don't even know when we will die. Okay, so yes, the disease can by itself reduce someone's quality of life in terms of how you move, in terms of cognition. When I say cognition, I mean memory, behavior, ability to do things. It can limit the patient's quality of life. But Parkinson by itself doesn't cause death. So death can occur from complications like when a person falls, he has a bleed in the brain and all of that. But Parkinson doesn't shorten lifespan, but it can reduce the quality of life. And with the drugs, really, and other things that one can do, you can also improve this quality of life. So it's not bad story all the way. I hope that answers the question.
Prof, can I ask?
Yeah,
this is the Nigerian in me asking now.
Okay.
So if you say that some people can afford drugs and there are herbal remedies that people can take that help, can people just take the herbal remedies when they get to 655 and be taking it just in case they don't know they might have Parkinson and it's on the way?
No, it's not done like that. Okay, you cannot take the medication prophylactically. You must have the symptom. So, and some of these herbs, many of them have not been well studied. Some of them are hepatotoxic, they are nephrotoxic. So we have to be very careful. Mucuna pruriens has been studied very well, by scientific bodies, and there's some amount of levodopa in that plant that can be helpful for patient. So that's very important.
All right, we are going to take 2 more questions and we'll move to the next. Please, 2 more questions. Don't worry. The next our panel, they will answer every other question you have. So, Alaji, please.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My question is, what relationship is stroke having with PD?
I didn't get his question.
I said, what relationship
is stroke,
does stroke have with PD? That is one. The second question is, accessibility of levodopa or Cinemet vis-a-vis the high cost. What is the medical practitioner is doing to assist those of us having PD at present on accessibility of these drugs, knowingly that it's expensive and we need continuity of drug to slow down the progression?
Okay, thank you for the questions.
Thank you,
Parkinson's disease and stroke, there can be a causal link. If you have a stroke that affects the substantia nigra, that is the portion of the brain where dopamine is produced. If you have a stroke that affects that part, then the patient can manifest with what, Parkinson-like features. Okay? And do you understand what I'm saying? The stroke can affect various parts of the brain. It can affect the frontal lobe, the occipital lobe, the temporal lobe. So, but if you have a lesion in the pars compacta of the substantia nigra, then the patient will manifest, with, Parkinson-like features. And that can be gotten when you do MRI brain. It will show you the lesion. The patient has not had any feature of stroke, of Parkinson's disease before. Suddenly, he starts having excessive slowness, start having tremor. You can think about Parkinson. And there's also something called Lewy body dementia. Lewy body dementia also can present with dementia and Parkinson-like features. Do you understand? So these are associations. There are disease conditions we call Parkinson plus syndrome, okay? Like multi-system atrophy, like, progressive supranuclear palsy, PSP, which is named after 3 people, Richardson, Steele, Onubogu's disease. These 3 people, describe that entity, present with dementia and Parkinson-like features, okay?
All right, thank you. There's another
then
question.
The drug,
the medication,
drugs.
Yes.
That one is above the capacity of the doctors. I think that has to be done at the government level. So we can, put pressure on the government that, the Adewunmi Foundation is doing, and even patients can raise awareness, we can write in papers, can see that this drug is quite beyond the reach of, of patient. And Neurological Association too can also meet the government and, put some pressure on them so that maybe the price can be subsidized as it has been done for retroviral, treatment. So awareness can be created that this drug is very important and people cannot afford it. And we can also encourage the production of, non-branded, drugs so that can be, afforded by the masses. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. We also, at the Adewunmi Desalu Parkinson's Foundation, provide medication support. So if you have need of medication, kindly let us know. We would definitely assist you with the capacity, within the capacity that we have. So some people are beneficiaries of this medication support. So please, kindly let us know. And we are partnering with some pharmaceutical companies to provide this medication. Thank you very much. There's one more question online, and I will wrap up this session. Good morning, Prof. You mentioned something about mucuna prunis. What about the dosage? How much do you take? Because taking excess of it can also cause dyskinesia. So.
Well, that's, I don't have much information on the dosage, but it has been said that the drug is very, very useful. So I'm sure that for companies that produce it, they will specify the dosage, especially in the countries where it is available. So probably we can encourage our pharmaceutical groups here to probably see whether they can import the prepared, dosage. You understand? That kind of be helpful.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And I would like to say this, please consult with your neurologist before you engage in the use of any medication. It's very important. And, like the doctor and Dr. Agabi and Prof has said, Parkinson's, the way it happens to individual, it differs. So it's important for you to check with your neurologist. I'm glad we are all engaging. Like I said, everybody in this hall is going to talk. And we have some people also in the gym that are watching us live and some people online. So please, if you have any questions at all, please, can you just put it on the live chat, and we are going to document this question and also ask the panelists. So I would like to call on the person that will be anchoring the first panel session for today. Is our very own Tolulope Oyenuga. Please, can we put our hands together for her? She's an expert in the NGO industry. She's a sustainability expert, and she will be anchoring this session. So all your questions, please, those of you that cannot stand up to ask the question, just write it down. We'll pick it up from you. Thank you.
Good morning, distinguished guests, the board members of Adewunmi Desalu Parkinson Foundation, our panelists, and the attendees. It's really an honor for me to be back here again to anchor this panel and then just be a part of this symposium. I was once a member of this family, so it's always great. At this time around, it's a privilege to get an invitation to come and anchor this. This panel that we would be taking on is, shaping and addressing the myths and misconceptions around Parkinson's disease in Nigeria and in Africa. And Parkinson's disease is often misunderstood, underdiagnosed, and undeserved in Africa. But this challenge also presents an opportunity for innovation, for collaboration, and for building inclusive systems that prioritize the dignity and care of people living with Parkinson's. Joining me on this panel today is none other than our keynote speaker, Professor Mustafa, who is a leading neurologist and health system expert. We've already heard his introduction, and he will be part of the panelists that will be speaking to us today. The second person I'd like to bring on this panel is none other than Dr. Agabi, Dr. Paul Agabi, a frontline neurologist at one of Nigeria's foremost tertiary institutions. Dr. Paul Agabi brings a vital clinical perspective on the realities faced by individuals living with Parkinson's disease. His insight bridge the gap between hospital-based care and the lived experiences of patients navigating stigma, delayed diagnosis, and fragmented access to therapies. Dr. Agabi will contribute to this panel by highlighting practical patient-centered strategies for enhancing diagnosis, demystifying misconceptions, and expanding access to quality care. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's give a round of applause as we welcome Dr. Paul Agabi to this panel. And last but not the least, on this panel, we would have Dr. Bolarinwa Isaac Akinola, who is a leading physiotherapist and neurorehabilitation specialist. Dr. Bolarinwa Isaac brings critical insight into the role of physiotherapy in holistic management of Parkinson's disease, with deep hands-on experience in rehabilitation approaches tailored to neurological conditions. It will explore how innovative therapeutic techniques are transforming patient outcomes. Its session will also tackle the widespread myths and misconceptions that often delay the integration of rehabilitation into the Parkinson's care pathways, especially within Nigeria and African communities. As a guest panelist for this panel, Dr. Akinola would discuss how physiotherapy can drive early intervention, enhance mobility, and improve the quality of life of persons living with Parkinson's disease, while highlighting the importance of collaboration among healthcare professionals to foster patient-centered care. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, let's give a round of applause as we welcome Dr. Bolarinwa Akinola. Just before we begin, I'd like to just, give a thank you, a very big thank you to our panelists. We have on this panel experts in the medical space, neurologists, researchers, and people who have devoted their lives and services to, addressing Parkinson's care, medication in Nigeria. And it is truly, really an honor to have you be a part of this symposium and come on this stage as panelists to, address misconceptions, myths that, that may be surrounding Parkinson's disease care and treatment in Africa. So thank you very much, panelists. Okay, so let's talk quickly about, addressing the myths, right? And this question is for you, Dr. Agabi. From a patient's perspective, I know that, I've worked with you briefly while at the foundation, and I know that you interact a lot with patients at the hospital. So from a patient perspective, can you tell us what are some of the common misconceptions about Parkinson's that you encounter in your clinical practice? And then how can we better educate both the patients and the families? Thank you.
So thank you. Parkinson's disease, like Professor Mustafa has said, is a neurodegenerative condition. When we say something is neurodegenerative, what we mean is that the brain cells are dying off as one ages. So if you ask me, what would be the greatest risk factor? Why would somebody most likely develop Parkinson? It would be because of age. So the older you become, the more likely you are to develop Parkinson, because it's a neurodegenerative condition. As we age, the brain cells begin to die off. Now, before we start seeing the symptoms that bring the patient to the hospital, that is, the majority of the patient will come to the hospital because of movement problems, slowness in movement, or sometimes tremors. But you see, Parkinson is much more than that. Before the person will start having slowness or tremors, there are certain things that are going on under. Before the patient begins to have Parkinson's, begins to have slowness or tremors, the brain cells in the area that make movement smooth or better would have died more than 70%. So before you start seeing slowness, the cells that make govern movement would have died more than 70%. Before the person also starts becoming slow, majority of them would have had issues like constipation. They would have had problems with smell, perceiving smell. Some will have problems with sleep. So some of the sleep problems is such that they'll be sleeping and then they'll be talking in the sleep. But oftentimes when we ask patients, this man, does he talk in his sleep? The wife will say no. Or you ask the wife, say no. Because we have some belief system that says that people, when they talk in their sleep, then there's some level of witchcraft going on. But no, it happens. And then sometimes people feel tired, they feel fatigued, they have mood changes, they're depressed, long before the Parkinson. So one of the commonest misconceptions would be that Parkinson, the only symptom of Parkinson, would be slowness or tremors that bring them to the hospital. So when we start talking and then you start telling the patient, do you have this? You say, yes, I have them. Before you start talking, when you start telling, you say, yes, doctor, how do you know these things? Because all of these things have been related to other things beyond the Parkinson. So it's the motor thing that brings us to the hospital. So that's one. So Parkinson is much more than a mobility problem. So you can have problems with memory, you can have problems with sleep, you have problems with cognition, you can have many other problems. Number two, in our climb, I think anything that shakes for a large extent has some spiritual undertone. Seizures, to be spiritually short, possessed, So it's not too difficult to imagine that somebody who shakes his hand from Parkinson, sometimes people will say, oh, is the things that he has done in this life that's happened to him, or somebody has shot him an arrow. So just imagine that you're a judge, and then you start having Parkinson, you're shaking in one hand. It's all the people that you have jailed forcefully. And so we get all of these things that they're pointing fingers. And the people say, I get into the bus and they're looking at me, they're saying shaky, shaky, that. So they think that these things are as a result of, something that you have done or something you have not done. The way I navigate this process, I'm sorry that I'm taking your time, right? So the way I navigate this process is that sometimes I tell them that even Pope John Paul II had a form of Parkinson. I'm not sure you can be as holy as he is, So, that's one. The thought that Parkinson is one, and then the misconception around it. The other one, like Professor Mustafa had said, is the feeling that Parkinson is contagious. So if I stay, Parkinson patients, sometimes they drool saliva, they hold on to saliva, and people think that when you touch the saliva, they're going to catch Parkinson. This is not true. All right? So these are some of the misconceptions. I'm glad she's looking at me. There are a whole lot of them.
Yeah, I know there are many of them. Thank you so much. And, for touching on tremors, I remember during the early days of starting the foundation, we had people who would come in with tremors and, they thought they had Parkinson's. And it was until we referred them back to the hospital that they were not even diagnosed with Parkinson's. So I think, you really, really hit the point there. Thank you so much. Dr. Bolarinwa, this is for you. So many patients delay seeking rehabilitative care due to the same myth that Dr. Paul has talked about. What strategies can physiotherapists adopt to educate patients and communities early in their Parkinson's journey?
Thank you very much, and I appreciate this opportunity for bringing me here. Actually, we in the rehabilitation professions, physiotherapy, occupational therapists, what we face a lot is by the time the patients are referred to us, it's already, getting very serious. And one of the reasons is that I have had a patient who, after being referred by neurologists to physiotherapy, the first question we have to neurology is the physiotherapist going to massage my head so that it gets to my brain and I'll be fine. Because what he already knew about physiotherapy is that they do massage or probably, have to do some touching for them to actually get well. So that's actually one of the misconceptions there. And what we try to do, this is one of them. That's why I appreciate this kind of opportunity. We try as much as possible to educate. And then by education, it's not just the community, the patients, or the relatives. We also try to extend the education to even healthcare providers, especially those in, primary health care, where they don't even refer for physiotherapy. Yes, when they are diagnosed, they tell them to exercise. And then I always say that, yes, it's good, you can actually start exercises, aerobics, and all of that. But physiotherapists have actually been known as custodians of exercise therapy. What we use the most is the use of exercise therapy. We know the frequency, the intensity, how long you have to do it. It's not just to do the exercises haphazardly. They are planned. What makes it exercise is that they are prescribed and they are regimented, not like physical activities that you just go to the market, you come back, you go to the toilet, you go to the bathroom. So when you see a physiotherapist, then they are going to structure these exercises for you. This is how long you have to do that. So education is actually what we use the most to facilitate, and that's actually what this is also providing. And then we try to leverage on the use of social media. This is the era of social media now, where everybody gets to see what is going on online. So we say out there that when you have Parkinson's disease, one of the things that can help you, in addition to the medication that Professor Agabi and Professor Mustafa have been saying, is exercises and physical therapy. So education. We can't say that enough. So we have to educate the general community, including even healthcare professionals, to know when to refer for physiotherapy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, one thing I've learned in the past years is that physiotherapy is a treatment. And if you take it as a treatment, you would know that you need somebody to prescribe it to you, you know. So thank you so much for talking about that. Professor, you know, just to lean on your experience, many years of experience and expertise, can you, given the disparities in healthcare access, what practical models can expand access to quality physiotherapy services? Sorry, not physiotherapy, quality care. You know, what practical ways can people begin to address misconceptions and then seek medical care?
The first thing is to have health education, to create awareness about the symptomatology of Parkinson's disease, so that people can be aware that what they have is nothing else but Parkinson's disease. You know, public health education. And the C campaign has helped in that direction by providing a booklet titled Understanding Parkinson's Disease, which has been translated into local languages. So our people can read about it and they can, you know, get to know about the symptoms. And the other thing that we can do is to train primary care physicians, nurses, geriatricians, other allied health workers that can even meet the needs of these people at the local level. They don't need to see a neurologist before a diagnosis of, you know, Parkinson's disease is made. If somebody is knowledgeable in that, you know, field, he can make a diagnosis and can start them on treatment. So that is, and the government can also encourage the programs on TV, radio, you know, like advert, like jingles and drama to make the diagnosis. And we can also encourage the observance of the World Parkinson Day, which is on April 11. So the government can encourage that, the institution can encourage that, the National Association can also encourage that, so that people will be aware there's a disease called Parkinson's disease, and it's not a death sentence, it's something that can be treatable, that can improve the quality of life of the patient.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. So moving on quickly to innovations in medical and rehabilitative care, and I'm still coming back to you, Professor. What key innovations or partnerships currently show the most promising, you know, hope for advancing Parkinson's disease care in Nigeria?
Well, the first thing is improving awareness and increasing the knowledge of the people about Parkinson, and that is very, very important. There are many people in the local villages in different parts of, you know, the C campaign has been able to achieve that. You understand? And the genetic studies that have also been done, genetic research, actually the one by IPD, GCIS, also help us to study diversity in the genetic basis of Parkinson's disease. And also the provision of affordable drugs, medications. These are advances in, you know, or innovations in care.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Paul Ogabi, what medical or rehabilitative innovations have you seen make the greatest difference in your Parkinson's patient's quality of life?
So I think that's a bit of a difficult question, because Parkinson's disease, if you look at it, is a bit of a variegated disease. So one person might have tremor dominant Parkinson. Another person might have slowness dominant Parkinson. So the way you approach them, even in terms of physiotherapy, is different. Some people are more responsive to levodopa. Some people are less responsive. Some people develop more side effects to levodopa, some don't. But overall, because the main reasons why the patients will come to the hospital is a problem of mobility. So one can argue that the major rehabilitative measure that provides benefit for patients with Parkinson would be physiotherapy. So when I say physiotherapy, I also want to say that I want to look at it from the point of view that it is not just physiotherapy, but we're looking at occupational therapy, we're looking at speech neuropathology therapy, we're looking at other things as well. I was reading through these, I don't know what I should call it, but I was just looking through this, and then it appears to capture virtually everything that you will offer a Parkinson patient in terms of physical therapy. Because dancing has helped. We know that dancing helps. We know that swimming also helps, but I mean, you have to be careful before you get into there and then you drown, you know. So you just have to be careful. Choose what suits you. Speech therapy, speech is another thing. Some people have speech, their main problem is speech. The other problem, you know, is also assessing the rehabilitative care. Some patients, when you diagnose them with Parkinson, they don't believe that they have Parkinson. One of the reasons why it is beyond even the culture, because we, as Africans and Nigerians, we are very religious and spiritual people. When you make a diagnosis, somebody will say, God forbid, my enemy does not have it, you know. I mean, your enemy does not have it, but you are slow. Now, because of the failure to accept this, health-seeking behavior, even reaching out to rehabilitative care, is also a problem. The other problem we have with Parkinson diagnosis is that diagnosis of Parkinson is clinical. You don't need any investigation to say that this person has Parkinson. No test in this world can tell you 100% that this person has Parkinson, except when the person dies. And they take a piece of his brain. That's why they can prove 100% that this person has Parkinson. Now, we must understand something. We have a criteria for making diagnosis of Parkinson. This criteria, when they compared it with the brain of people with Parkinson who have died, they discovered that the criteria is 99% good. So we use this criteria. Professor Mustafa had said something about that scan. We have that scan in the country. So Evercare, we do that scan in Evercare. So we are doing a study in Lutz called the Parkinson Progressive Markers Initiative. We have been doing that study now for about 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years, yeah. So we get to send patients to Evercare for that scan. It costs about 1.6 million. And please know that that scan does not tell you categorically that you have Parkinson. So permit me to quickly draw a distinction between Parkinson and Parkinsonism so that it can be clear. There are many things that, how do we make a diagnosis of Parkinson first of all? One, the main thing that you need to be called to say that you have Parkinsonism is slowness. Slowness is the main thing. So you can have people with Parkinson who don't have tremors, they're only slow. If there's no slowness, there's no Parkinson. That's number one. So if you see somebody who is slow, you say that the person has Parkinsonism. Now, this Parkinsonism can come from different causes. One of the causes can be medication. People who take antipsychotic, I'm sure that when you see some patients who take antipsychotic, you see them walking in a funny way, slow, as if though they have Parkinson. That is drug-induced Parkinsonism. Even some antihypertensives that we take, like metaldopa, aldomet, for some people, it can cause them to be slow. If somebody has too much blow on his head, they can be slow. So, I mean, this is not going deep into it, but it is that slowness. Now, there are many other conditions that can cause somebody to be slow, that are neurodegenerative. If the person with Parkinson starts coming to the clinic, you can think that this person has Parkinson for some time. And as the person starts coming, you start seeing that the symptoms are changing, and it doesn't fit Parkinson clearly. Now, for those people who come to you, who are heavily reliant on investigation, when you tell them that they have Parkinson and they tell you what test can you do, and you can't do any test for them, they just Sometimes they don't tell you that, look, this doctor doesn't know what he's doing. But by the time they hear 1.5 million that cannot differentiate, those that have money will still go do it. And it comes back that they still have Parkinson's. You can't differentiate. So we must know that. So that's another thing. But rehabilitative care, in terms of going for rehabilitative care, we will think that physiotherapy in terms of balance exercises, in terms of mobility, in terms of reverse, what they call it. Even tense, these days, somebody was talking about saying that whether massage. Yeah, so now, currently, people are even doing transmagnetic stimulation for Parkinson's disease. So they just, on the head. I mean, for those people who want this, it's not available in the country at the moment, but for some people who want to be massaged in the head, it can also help, So I think mobility exercises, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy is the most rewarding of all the rehabilitative care.
Thank you.
Please let me react to Dr. Agabisa. Actually, I sent a patient for that scan in Iraq. I got there, and they said probably they were not doing it, or the machine was not working at that time, or there was some issue, and that patient had to go to Turkey. So
I think what happened was that, so they import the product, they import it. Okay. So because they were the active...
I can't hear you.
I got carried away. I thought I was responding to him alone. So I think what happened at that time, it's not a test that they do for everybody. In short, they started doing that test because we asked them to do it because of the study. I've sent 1 or 2 private patients there who did the TODAT scan. Now, they have to import this TODAT. That's what they use for the DAT scan. They have to import it, and it's a radioactive substance. So if you keep it, it loses its radioactivity. So over time, so after a set period of time, they won't have TODAT, except to have patient again, they will import. Nobody wants to keep the TODAT if there are no patients.
You cannot preserve it. There's no way of...
So even if you preserve it, it has its half-life. So anytime you want to do it, I mean, it's not an emergency, right? So you can speak to them. In another 1 or 2 months, they get the TODAT and they do it for the patient.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. By the way, I'm not holding brief for ever care.
There are some red flags, you understand? If you have a patient that you suspect Parkinson, if he has dementia at the onset of the disease, that is not Parkinson, okay? If the patient does not respond to levodopa, that's not likely to be Parkinson, okay? So there are some red flags. There are quite a number of them, okay? So Parkinson's disease, usually they are responsive, most of them, to levodopa. When you give the drug to the patient that is suspected, that you suspect that has Parkinson, there will be a dramatic improvement. Okay.
Thank you, sir. I'm really enjoying this panel, and I have to run quickly, so thank you. So still on innovative treatments and solutions, and I'll be going to Dr. Akinola. In the area of rehabilitative treatments for people with Parkinson's, what are the new techniques, technologies that we now have available? Which one have you used, and which one have you seen to be the best technique or tool to helping people with Parkinson's?
Thank you. Let me just start from where he stopped. When he said no 2 patients are actually the same. So based on assessment, we'll be able to know, okay, what this person needs and what this person needs. So that's how we can actually conclude that, okay, this is the best for this person. And the first one, which have been opportunity, is actually, there was a study I was part of, that's the transcranial direct current stimulation for the brain. It's actually an innovative, management of PD, which have been battled. It's actually uncommon, it's very new in this part of the world. So I was part of a study recently where that was actually conducted. But for the ones we have actually used in the clinic for management and very effective, I would say the number 1 is the Queen strategy. That's the use of cues. It works like magic. It's very, very effective. We actually have 3 types of that. We have the auditory cues, we have the visual cues, and then we have the tactile cues. So the auditory, where we can actually make use of even rhythmic music We can even use the tap of the hand. We mostly use this in the clinic to help with gait. Freezing of gait is actually very common in Parkinson's disease, where they walk a little bit and then they freeze and then they start moving again. So with the auditory cues, it gives them that movement. So for every tap we make, they take a step, and then it continues like that. So even when you are not making that tap, it rings in their head that after every tap, they have to move. That's actually very, very effective. And then we use the visual cues. We can even use the taping of the floor to actually help with their balance and coordination. So you know you have to walk within the straight line based on the marked floor. And then there are also wearable devices that have actually been introduced. Some of them are very available in Nigeria, though few. You know, that's where the tactile comes in, where it vibrates on their body and they know they have to make the next move. So this is actually what I know has worked the most. And another one is the virtual reality. This is another, yes, virtual reality. It's being used in Nigeria currently, and I've been able to use that in combination with treadmill to manage patients' gait pattern, including balance and coordination. This, they actually get immersed. Most of us even use this when we go to gaming places. Yes. We wear these goggles, and then we find ourselves in some places that doesn't feel real. Yes, we actually make use of this, not even for PD alone, for even neurological conditions like stroke. So when they find themselves in this kind of environment, so it gives them this different view, or another word entirely, where they have to follow a particular pattern. And then you realize that they start following that, even things they cannot do without, you know, wearing that. So we have actually been able to use that to rehabilitate, you know, patients with Parkinson. And there are a lot of studies, even at the level of meta-analysis and RCTs, that are proving that they are very effective to improve balance, you know, coordination, and then gait. And then there are several of them. And we look at telemedicine. These are innovative means. You know, you can be anywhere and still manage your patients. You know, currently there are a lot of patients that are not within the country. And because they had to relocate, that does not stop their therapy. So we still continue that using the telemedicine. We do video calls. Then you still give the training online. So there are quite a number of them, and they have been proven. There have been research that have been conducted that show that they actually work. Thank you.
Wow. Wow, thank you. I have a question on virtual reality, but I'll save it for, you know, question and answer session. So lastly for this panel, we'll be talking about early detection and access. And while Dr. Agabi was talking about the treatment and how Parkinson's is a clinically, you know, diagnosed disease, I would like to say that at this foundation, we like to say that our approach to care and support is a holistic approach. So we work with all this disciplinary team, and, you know, to ensure that we help improve the quality of life of people living with Parkinson's. And I just want to say thank you again for sharing your insight and knowledge on this topic. So let's talk about early detection and access. And my question is for you, Dr. Agabi. Many patients struggle with delayed diagnosis. How can we improve early detection and access to specialist care at the community level? In 3 minutes.
Okay, all right. So I think that even the microphone was having difficulties coming on because of the question. I mean, that's a big question, really. At the community level, you know, for us as Nigerians, as Africans, we have problems with health-seeking behavior. Unlike in other parts of the world, I mean, there are studies to back this. Our health-seeking behaviors are bad. For instance, if I wake up in the morning and I'm slower than I used to be, sometimes I'll just push it aside and continue. And the slowness continues like that. I think one of the things that we can do, like Professor Mustafa had said, is to create awareness. Awareness, and to empower community health workers to go into the communities, let the people know that once you have shaking of the hand, you're unduly tired, you're slow, please come to the hospital. The specialist care thing might be outside the scope of the discussion here because it's multifaceted. I am a consultant now. I've been practicing medicine for more than 20 years. And my salary is not even up to 600,000. I'm not saying that's the truth. And then you expect that people will not jack back. There we go. So this is the problem. In 2022, it was reported that the number of neurologists in Nigeria are just 220. There were times when we finished residency, we were about 10 young neurologists that were hashed into town in Lagos. 8 of us, 2 years after, had gone to the US. 8. So some people argue that the remainder at the second half, the less privileged, so to say, the ones that know less, the good ones have gone. So there are fewer hands. There's nothing we can do about it except, of course, the economy changes or something happens. If nothing happens, then we're still going to be running around in these circles. So in terms of expert care, I think one of the things we can also do is to empower the medical officers. This empowerment will come in the form of training and retraining. Not only the medical officers, we also encourage and empower the nurses. You know, like abroad, there are PD support group, there are PD specialist nurses, there are PD specialist physiotherapists, PD specialist occupational therapists. So if we can have people that we can train and educate to go to the communities and begin to look for these signs. I mean, we are already doing that with some of the studies we are doing with Parkinson. Fantastic job. They just go into the community. They say if you are slow or your hand is shaking, please come to Loot. This is it. And you just see a lot of them coming. And about 90% of those people who will come from the communities, from these people, have Parkinson, undiagnosed before. So yes, when you empower people, you go. You empower them with clear instructions. Because sometimes when you empower people, you say, go get Parkinson, they become doctors themselves and start giving levodopa and carbidopa to patients. So, I mean, with clear instructions, we can navigate that pathway.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
To contribute to what Dr. Gabi has said, actually, the situation is quite pathetic now. The number of neurologists in Nigeria is quite very, very low. In fact, there are some states that don't have a single neurologist. That people have to travel from one state to the other to access neurology care. And that is something that is really, really, really problematic. And I don't know how we can stem that tide. The neurologist that I trained in my former institution, a very brilliant young lady, she didn't even spend up to 2 years. She's gone back to she's gone to the UK. And she could have been of help, to patients with neurological diseases. So, and that is a big problem that we have to deal with.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for that addition, sir. So my question, final question for this panel is for you, Professor Mustafa. How can Nigeria expand, and I think you already started talking about it, how can Nigeria expand early detection and accurate diagnosis of Parkinson's, especially at the primary healthcare level? Because we may not talk about it a lot, but there is also a high rate of misdiagnosis. So how can this work? Thank you.
Training and retraining of primary care, health workers, especially physicians at the local level, and nurses, allied health workers, and geriatricians. You make them to understand what they need to know about the diagnosis. You can use the UK PDS, criteria to make the diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. You tell them about the symptomatology and how they can exclude red flags, so that, they'll be able to make accurate diagnosis. So education is very, very important. And national associations like NSNS can, be involved in the training of such, group, of people. You can organize seminar, symposia, or 2-day workshop, for them, so that they'll be able to be equipped with the knowledge and the necessary required knowledge to be able to make a diagnosis, okay? And also, I also talk about public health campaign, creating awareness, and making available those booklets to the local populace, and letting people know that if they have anything like tremor, like excessive slowness, they should go and see the doctor. And that's very, very important.
Thank you so much. Please, let's give them a huge round of applause. Thank you all. Thank you. I think, just listening to this panel, one key theme that, may have not been on the topic or may have not been mentioned, but one key thing that both Dr. Akinola, Dr. Agabi, and Professor have been talking about is the need for education, re-education, awareness, both at the healthcare level, at the community level, and even at the with the individuals living with Parkinson's. So everybody needs to, be educated. Everybody needs to learn at some point. And, I hope that just like myself will be taking home, some of these key points. Thank you so much, panelists. And now we would be moving quickly to the Q&A session, the question and answer session. If you have questions, I'm sorry, I should have said this earlier. And I think Mr. John mentioned it, if you cannot stand up to ask your questions, please write it in a note and pass it to the person, I think the gentleman in the checkered shirt, yes. Just, you see him on your right or left, wherever you're sitting. But we will be taking questions, and we'll be taking just, a few questions, I think. So let's do it this way. If you have questions, please put your hands up. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Final. There is no sub-question or post-question. Okay, 5. Thank you. Yes, I took your number. Okay, over to you. Yes, if you want to.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much. My question is, standing on what you had earlier said on diagnosing Parkinson's and with the slowness and the onset of slowness usually indicating that at least about 70% has gone already. Now, if that's the case, it means that you have even less time to help the patients in either reducing the progression of the disease itself or improving the quality of life. Now, is there any way for us to do this faster or to say for a fact without the slowness being the onset of it, because at that point you're almost gone, that is the sign that you actually do have Parkinson. For instance, we know it affects the levels of dopamine. Can we look at a combination of symptoms in addition to signs of like mental illness such as depression, anxiety, and use that as an earlier marker for Parkinson's disease than having to wait till you're almost to the end of the point before we can say, yes, you do have Parkinson, for you to start getting care? And then my second question is, I'm not sure if it's something that we are able to solve, because it affects every aspect of healthcare, especially non-communicable disease such as Parkinson's. Our lack of human resources. Now we are talking about training healthcare workers to be able to identify symptoms of Parkinson and go to communities. Majority of our healthcare workers are already overworked. Healthcare facilities are understaffed. Now we are giving them an additional task to do to support the identification and calling people forward to come for early diagnosis of Parkinson. How do we make our system, either in terms of the learning programs, the opportunities for funded research, to attract more of our neurologists from not leaving and contribute? That's why I said, I know it might be something that we cannot really solve, but how do we kind of do a sort of tax shift within this space to say that even if we are not putting all the work on neurologists, at least we still have some other professions within the healthcare system that can support in helping patients with Parkinson's disease? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Similar question. Okay, hold on, sir. Which your question directed to Dr.? Okay.
Yeah, because I know you're going to answer it. So, on her first part, interestingly, when you were saying it's a clinical diagnosis for, so you said a few things that made me just laugh. Sleeplessness, many of us don't sleep at night. Tiredness, many of us are tired at night. Constipation, it's normal, it's Nigeria. When you hear news. So the point is, in fact, when you said every symptom you said, I was asking myself, this man hasn't told me what to get. Try this, because if I follow what you said, I'm diagnosed. It's just that I'm not yet slow. The only hope I had was that at least I'm still walking normally. So the point is, on her point, everything you said, it's normal. I don't know any Nigerian here who is up to 50 who doesn't face it. Because when you think of a children's school fees, you won't sleep. It's not they're just. So the point is, what can we do, like she said on that question? What else can we do to pre-diagnose? Because if you're saying we wait till we're slow, then these things you said, then everybody here has a problem, at least me. And so that's the key. For me, how do we diagnose it early so that, or what do we check? Because all these markers, the clinical markers, most of us have those markers. It's not, how do we check it? What can we do? Or if not, then it boils down to what I was asking you. Should we just be taking medicines, just hope that we don't get it? Just be chewing the leaf. So we hope that we don't get it. I'm serious about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Dr. Agabi.
So thank you very much for the question, first of all, and thank you for adding on to the question. The Parkinson's disease space at the moment is full with different research. And majority of the researches are supported by the Michael J. Fox Foundation, who also suffered Parkinson. There's a lot of research going on, a lot. In short, the one I alluded to earlier that I said was the Parkinson Progressive Markers Initiative is a way of, so let me give you a background information. Before this time, thoughts have arisen as to saying that Parkinson started from the gut. So that's why these people have problems with constipation. So there are some approaches that are targeted to the gut to deal with early Parkinson. That didn't work. Then from the gut, they said, okay, it goes to the nose, and then you have problems with smell. And please, let me crave your indulgence. Allow me to explain, because sometimes when I look at your face, I get scared that I'm taking too much time. Some of us are slow in explaining, so you forgive me.
Go ahead.
So then we came to the thought that, so it goes to the nose and then to the sleep area and it ascends to the brain. The sleep area is in the brain. Yes, and good that all of these symptoms I've talked about can occur in all of us. Even me, I have problems with sleep. But the thing is not just sleeplessness. One of the more important part of the sleep is what they call REM sleep behavioral disorder. What is REM sleep? We have two types of sleep, or two stages of sleep, or two phases of sleep, so to say. There's a part of the sleep that we dream. We think that when we're dreaming, just imagine now that you are dreaming that a lion is chasing after you, and when you turn to your left, Boko Haram fighters are coming. And then what will you do? You want to push, kick out, push, So God has made it so that all our muscles are paralyzed when we're dreaming, except the one that helps us to breathe, which is the diaphragm, and the one that moves our eyes, so that we don't act out our dreams. But sometimes, when people sleep, they talk in their sleep. Sometimes when people sleep, they kick out. So they have dream enactment behavior. It can be vocalization, it can be auto-manifestation. For these people who have this, a large chunk of them will develop neurodegenerative conditions, like Parkinson, Lewy body dementia, like I talked about. Also, people who have problems with perceiving smell. Not that they have catarrh, just naturally, more than 10 years before this time. And then this constipation. I had a patient who came to see me and had constipation and had 2 surgeries for constipation. He had Parkinson's disease. After the 2 surgeries, nothing worked. I'm not saying that there are some Parkinson's. So there are some patients who come, they have tremors. And you say that, oh, this is not Parkinson's, it's essential tremors. Over time, the symptoms of the Parkinson's will evolve clearly, and it becomes unequivocally so that this person has Parkinson's. So if the person was seeing Professor Mustafa first, who says he has essential tremor because it was only tremor he had, and by the time 2 years later he's coming to me and I say he has Parkinson's, he would think that Professor Mustafa does not know what he's doing. No. Some of these diseases evolve over time to become clear. Now, the question you ask as to there's no one drug that can halt the progression of Parkinson. There's none. And there's no one drug that can reverse it. So what is being done at the moment is the research is trying to find out whether there's something we can do. And we are happy that in Lutz that we are part of this research because we are the only country, the only center in Africa that is participating. For the first time, we're having an all-black population being investigated, whether there are some peculiarities with their Parkinson compared to white, so that when they are developing medications, it will be clear that these people who don't respond. You know, there's some antihypertensive that they told us before that it's not for blacks, it's for white, based on the mechanism of the hypertension. So if they are not developing drugs, they will now be more specific for African population. But at the moment, unfortunately, there's no one drug. The only difference is that if we pick Parkinson's disease early, so unfortunately we go back to what we see, slowness. The majority of the patients that come to you, they will come because they are slow or they are having tremors. That's what brings them to the hospital. Is in talking to them, they will not be telling you, I feel tired. Every time, I've been feeling tired. This leg, this body, I can't, that's part of the Parkinson. It's not the normal everyday tiredness that we're talking about. Oh, we're tired. Even me myself, that's why I didn't come here early, I was tired. So we're all tired all the time, you know. So there's no one drug that can stop Parkinson, but there's research. We are hopeful that in the next 5 or 10 years, something will come out. The other question you asked, I'm not sure I understood it clearly.
The second question.
Okay, yeah. The only thing is government. I mean, if you ask me, is government. You know, I can pay myself. You know, and the people you are going to train, you are going to pay them, because you are giving them added task, added responsibility. They are going to pay them. We are running an economy that has no money. At least that's what they said. So if we don't have money to pay these people, and you are going to train them, how do they do this work effectively? How? So, I mean, the whole thing boils down. So, if I'm going to go to Saudi, and Saudi will pay me $5,000 per month, why should I stay here? This is the question that we need to answer. So, it's easy for people to say, why do you have to japa when you have your people here? But if you have put 20 years of practice into the care of sick people, and then your salary can't even take you home, then there's a problem. There's a big problem. It's the same hospital that people send their children to, that we send our own children to, the same school, the same things. So, I mean, people will always japa except something changes. If nothing changes, then people will always... We can't even preach. The problem is that we can't even preach the country to the medical students. The medical students now, you know, people will wait until you graduate before you start writing exams to japa. They have started writing it as students. You can't even preach the country to them. It's a problem.
A little contribution to what Dr. Agabi has said. It's not everybody that comes with tremor, resting tremor, that may have Parkinson. So you can do some investigation, basic investigation, to exclude secondary causes of Parkinson. There's a disease called Wilson disease, hepatolenticular degeneration, where you have excessive copper in the body and it can get deposited in the brain, in the basal ganglia. It can cause, resting tremor. So you can do the level of serum ceruloplasmin to know whether this patient, what he has is, Wilson disease. You can also assess, the level of thyroid hormone. Somebody has hypothyroidism, they may be excessively slow, and they may have all these things, okay? You can also ask from the history, is there any drug that the patient is taking that is causing extrapyramidal side effects like abnormal movement. People who are psychiatric patients, who are on antipsychotic drug like phenothiazine, butyrophenone, those things can cause it. So you have to exclude, those, alternatives to Parkinson's disease. Because as I've said in my presentation, there's no marker for Parkinson. You understand now? You cannot, if you do MRI brain, CT scan brain, it's always normal, you understand? Usually it's the symptomatology. If you have done all those tests and they are normal, then you strongly suspect Parkinson's disease.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Sorry. Just a contribution, because I think he's actually very interested in the preventive aspect. He ended up by saying that maybe we just go and chew the leaves, and then Professor Mustafa already said you can't take the medication ahead, you can't chew the leaves. So what we advise is that one thing you can do that you can do before you're having any condition is physical therapy. Physical therapy is not just rehabilitative in nature, it's also preventive. Exercising a lot of research have shown that people with PD, actually the severity is based on even their earlier lifestyle. People that were active or were involved in exercises prior to being diagnosed of it actually fare better, So, and then they have inculcated that lifestyle even before having the condition. So it's easier for them to get into it even when they get the condition. So you can try physical therapy, exercises. So I believe that is going to also help to keep you fit ahead. Yeah,
thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is what we're going to do for the last set of questions. We'll take all the questions, and my panelists, please take note of the questions. And then once we collate the questions, you just give it a go so that we don't extend this panel for too long. The third person.
Yes, my question is for Dr. Akinola.
Dr. Akinola.
My question is for you.
Just note the question.
Please,
and then
I would like to know what exercise you would give to a PSP patient who is unable to raise her legs. It's very important, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The fourth person.
Thank you, everybody. I'm happy to be here today because I learned that there is hope for my colleagues that are suffering from Parkinson's disease. Because what I heard is that there is a lot of research that is going on to discover the medicine that will be beneficial to us. Then another thing I want to ask, because Parkinson's disease, you have to ask a lot of questions. Is there any connection with this Parkinson's disease with our teeth? Because when I'm coming here today, I learned that a dentist is going to talk to us. Because 50% of my suffering is from my mouth. I'm chewing my teeth every time, and it's chattering. I don't know if it happens to other patients. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. And the last question for this session.
Please, I want to know, constant falling and not going to the toilet frequently, is it part of the Parkinson's disease?
Thank you. Before we go ahead and answer, do we have any question online? They're sending it to me. Okay. Please go ahead, sir.
All right. She asked about any exercise to do when you find it difficult to raise your leg for PSP. Actually, so if that has been diagnosed, I don't know if you have seen a physiotherapist already. The first thing a physiotherapist would do is to check why you are unable to raise your leg. And most of the times, especially with PSP and generally Parkinsonism, is weakness of the muscles responsible for raising those legs. So if that is the case, there are strengthening exercises we recommend. If you can't raise it at all, at all, that is, we look at probably power 0 or 1, you have flicker. Then we start with some passive mobilization exercises where your physiotherapist will have to help you to stretch your legs. But if you're able to raise it to a particular level, but you can't just get it high enough, Then there are tools that we use, like tying of weights around your leg. I'm sure you must have seen that. We can start with 1 kg. First, we even start with you raising against gravity without tying anything on it. You can hold it and count up to 10 before you drop it. And then as it gets stronger, we introduce to using of weights from 1 kg, 2 kg, gradually like that until you are able to actually get better. So I will advise that there is importance of assessment. We have to know why you are unable to raise the leg, and if it is linked to weaknesses, and then there will be strengthening exercises to use for that. I hope, thank you. And then let me join that with maybe Prof. and Dr. Gabi will still answer that. For 4, if it is part of
okay, yes,
yes, Parkinsonism. If there has not been diagnosis, and then that is already happening, and you may actually have to see your neurologist for diagnosis. But if you have been diagnosed, usually falls, postural instability actually comes later on for Parkinson's disease. But for other Parkinsonism cases, it can come early enough. In fact, for a person diagnosed with Parkinson's disease to get to the level of 4, usually the year level of like 3 or 4, stage 4 or 5, then it has gone to the, that stage, a higher stage. So yes, it's possible for it to be linked to Parkinson's disease, but if it has not been diagnosed before, then there is needs to see your neurologist for diagnosis. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Gabi, quickly, sir. Do you have anything you want to say on this? The dentist is not coming, so if you have any...
All right. So, I mean, the question on whether the teeth has anything to do with Parkinson, no. So, but patient with Parkinson can also have abnormal movements, all right? They can have abnormal movements either from the drug or from other conditions. So they can have what you are describing, like chewing your mouth, crack, 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 is bruxism. It's called bruxism. That can occur even in patients without Parkinson and tends to be worse in the night. So what we do with that is that we ask you to wear mouth guard, teeth guard. I mean, so you just wear like rubber on the teeth so that you don't file your teeth. However, that patient with Parkinson, because they retain a lot of saliva, so sometimes oral hygiene is very important because their mouth can smell. They can have remnants of food in between that they need to see the dentist more often for. So yes, dental care is very important in Parkinson, but that Parkinson causes dental problems. Maybe not directly, not the Parkinson directly, but an aftermath of this retaining of saliva and poor oral hygiene. Then for the falls, yes, it is, in short, one of the red flags for diagnosing Parkinson is early falls. So if somebody comes to me and tells me that he has been slow for 1 year and is falling, I know that this may not be Parkinson's disease. This might be a form of Parkinsonism. But as the person starts having the Parkinson for, say, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, he can begin to fall. Patients with Parkinson can have constipation from the beginning. I told you that some of these symptoms, the premotor symptoms, the non-motor symptoms, occur sometimes years, 5 years, 10 years even, before the slowness comes. So they can have constipation, and yes, they can have terrible constipation, and yes, they can have difficult to control constipation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Professor, lastly.
Additionally, people who have recurrent fall might be due to orthostatic hypotension. The autonomic, dysfunction that occur in Parkinson, especially later in the disease. So that can cause some postural, imbalance, and the patient can fall. And also, they have increased rigidity. So turning around is very difficult. Usually they turn and block, gradually. If somebody does a swift turning, he can fall, you understand? So these are things that contribute to recurrent fall, and usually it occurs later in the disease, okay? Then talking about teeth grinding in Parkinson, I think I'm hearing it for the first time. Most of my patients have never complained of that. So it's possible that it could be a sleep disorder, because bruxism is actually a sleep disorder that occur in children. It's very common in them. So, and that sleep disorder also are also common in people who have Parkinson's disease. like Dr. Agabi mentioned, dream enactment, that somebody be fighting in the dream, he'll be shouting, he'll be, so it's possible that it's a sleep disorder the patient has. So that's
Thank
my
you, sir.
contribution.
So just for fairness, I'll take one online question. I also know the answer to this question, but I want you to just answer in one sentence as the medical practitioner here. And this is for you, Dr. Gabi. I shake all the time, and I'm sure I don't have Parkinson's. I just want to know the other ways to know whether Parkinson's could be hiding in someone's body. Thanks a lot.
So very simple. See a specialist.
Thank
See
you.
a specialist for proper evaluation. So all that shakes is not Parkinson.
Thank you
And
so
it's not
much.
all Parkinson that shakes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to say a big thank you to our panelists. Please let's give them a round of applause. Dr. Akinola, Dr. Agabi, and Professor Mustafa, thank you so much for sharing your insight and just bringing a whole wealth of knowledge and experience to this panel. I'm sure we all have taken notes, and we have action points and lessons that we would go home and implement from this, from educating the people around us to educating ourselves to creating awareness in our community, and as health practitioners to seeing how we all can work together to, bring a better care, better treatment to the lives of people living with Parkinson's in Nigeria and Africa. And on this note, we have come to the end of this panel. Thank you, everyone, and we'll move on to the next one. Thank you so much.
Please let's put our hands together for our panelists. All right. I hope you've learned a lot. It's not over. We are rounding up very soon. I know we've been sitting for a very long time, so in the next 2 minutes, we're just going to call on our physiotherapist to just give us a light stretches so that we can be able to balance ourselves, and we move to the next panel, which will not take time at all. Please, the next panel is not going to take time at all. So we will call on physiotherapist Ojo. Please come and do light stretches for everybody so we can be able to have our balance. All right, thank you very much. All right.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Please can we stand up? Please, on our feet. On our feet, everybody. On our feet. Okay, very simple. So, on our feet, everybody. So your shoulders, we're going to start with our shoulders. Now we're going to move our shoulders like a truck. We're going to go round. So let's go round together. Good. 1, 2, let's count together. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job. Now we are going up and down. Up and down. Now, are we ready? Now, let's go. 1, good job. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, our hands to the side. Oh, no space. But we can try. Hands to the side. Now we're going up. Take your hands up. Up. Now we're going to count 5 together. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down. Up again. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Down. Good job. Last one. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now the other arm to the side. Up. Now we're going to count 5 again. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down. Up again. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down. Good job, Otumba. Up. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down. Last one. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good job. Now the last one. Are we tired? Are we tired? We've just started now. And now we want to squat. Now your legs apart. Your legs apart. Then your backs has to be straight. Nobody should do like this. So. Not like this. We're going like this. Down. You come up. Down. You come up. Now your knees will be bent, but your back is not bent. So you're going down with your knees. Are we ready? Yes. Now let's go. 1, good job, let's go. 2, good job, let's go. 3, good job, let's go. 4, good. 5, good. 6, I'm going to 10, no? 7, are we tired? 8, good. 9, good. 10. Wait. I'm not done. So breathe into your nose, out to your mouth. In, out. In, out. So this one is very important. Now if you have issues with sleeping, this is one important thing I tell people that come around, members that come around, that when you have issues with sleeping, before you sleep, you can do like 10 of this, 20 of this to help you relax. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, let's be seated. Thank you very much. Gradually, now you understand what the PD warriors, they go through when they come to ADPF. It's everyday exercise, and we are glad to. So, Prof mentioned Understanding Parkinson's. We have this booklet that we printed in Yoruba and English, Igbo and English, and Hausa and English. The Pidgin version is coming. So if you want to understand more about Parkinson's, we have the booklet at the back, or you can get it from the registration stand. Thank you very much. So the second panel session, on behalf of Dr. Amy, who is unavoidably absent. She sent her apologies, first and foremost to the board and also to the panelists that will be anchoring today's session, that she won't be able to join us for this program. And she said anytime we give her the opportunity, she would like to come around. So the next panel section is going to be talking about communities for better Parkinson's care, fresh approach to Parkinson's advocacy and care. And we have our panelists here. First, who will be joining us virtually, Mrs. Omotola Thomas, founder of Parkinson's Africa. Please, can you spotlight her from the Zoom? And also we have Ms. Rhoda Robinson, the Executive Director, Hazy Health Initiatives Nigeria. She's present with us here. And we are going to be talking about things that have to do with people with Parkinson's. Awareness, stigma, and everything that has to do with their social and social lifestyle. So can we have Miss Rhoda Robinson? Yes, you are going to be coming up. Please, can we put our hands together for her? Thank you. So Ms. Rhoda Robinson brings a wealth of experience in community health engagement, gender equity, and youth-led advocacy. As the executive director of HC Health, she has championed inclusive health programs that address systemic barriers for underserved populations, particularly women and youth. And I know we have a lot of young onset Parkinson's patients. In the context of Parkinson's disease, Ms. Rhoda's voice is critical to shaping grassroots responses that are inclusive, youth-sensitive, and gender-responsive, most especially the young onset. And her expertise will help illuminate how Parkinson's disease, especially young onset Parkinson's, impacts women differently, and how community-based initiative can be designed to recognize and support this unique experience. So, please, one more time, let's put our hands together for Ms. Rhoda Robinson. And I call her my Oga, Ms. Omotola Thomas, the founder of Parkinson's Africa. As someone living with Parkinson's and the founder of Parkinson's Africa, Ms. Omotola Thomas brings a deeply personal and empowering perspective to the conversation around community advocacy. Her work has helped reshape how Parkinson's is understood and supported across the continent, bridging the gap between lived experience, healthcare access, and meaningful policy. Omotola's voice is essential in grounding this panel in the real challenges and opportunities faced by those living with Parkinson's in Africa. She will speak about the importance of lived experience in shaping advocacy and strengthening support networks and driving equity in care. So, for those of us that are Parkinson's, our members and caregivers, you know, this is where you learn one or two things about some of the things that we are facing when it comes to stigma. So, I will go right into it. Thank you very much. Permit me to stand up, or you want me to sit down? Oh, okay. All right then. Thank you. All right. So, I will be, Ms. Omotola Thomas, please, can you just say hi? Can we unmute her?
Hello, everyone.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. So I'm going to start with you. So what as someone with Parkinson's, what has advocacy meant for you personally, and how, you know, has it shaped the work of Parkinson's Africa?
Thank you very much, John. Thank you. Let me start, first of all, by saying thank you to you, to ADPF, for putting together this symposium and for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Omotola Thomas, and for those who are not aware, I got diagnosed with Parkinson's disease at the age of 35 after experiencing, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years of different symptoms. When I first got diagnosed, I didn't set out to be an advocate. It wasn't something that I planned to do. I don't even think I really understood what it meant to be an advocate, or that was what I was doing. At the time, I was just looking for answers. I was in search of something to help me understand what I was going through. You know, just generally making sense of everything that I was experiencing. My journey into advocacy was not strategic. It was a deeply personal journey. It was a quest to find the meaning of my situation. To life-altering diagnosis at the age of 35. And to find connection and a sense of belonging that even at that time, I don't think I really understood that I desperately needed. So lifeline, an opportunity for me to use an illness, a debilitating illness like Parkinson's disease at such a young age, to use my voice to find purpose and to connect with others and to be encouraged. And so if you look at it from that perspective, those are the themes that ran in my head when I was starting Parkinson's Africa. And that is what informs largely the direction that we're going and the work that we're trying to do at Parkinson's Africa, which is offer a platform for African voices to be elevated, create spaces where Africans impacted on Parkinson's disease can find their tribe, and to offer a platform where people, different people from different parts of the continent can come together, coalesce, use our voices, and make changes for those of us living with this condition.
Thank you very much, Ma. We acknowledge the work that you have put in and the efforts. And that's why we have, Understanding Parkinson's in over 12 languages across Africa. And we are grateful for the work, and we thank you for all that you do. Going to Ms. Rhoda Robinson, how can you better engage youth, especially young women, as advocates, caregivers, or early intervention agents in Parkinson's awareness?
Thank you very much. I think we can kind of flow from the last panel that had spoken about the importance of awareness and community engagement in making sure that people understand what Parkinson is, are able to identify some of the symptoms, and then build a more positive health-seeking behavior so that they can get early diagnosis and are able to get on a treatment faster or earlier to improve the quality of life going forward. When we look at engaging young people, especially women, in advocacy for health, education or health conditions, there are different templates and frameworks that exist that has been applied to other aspects of healthcare, whether it's HIV, whether it's sexual and reproductive health, whether it's mental health care. It's the same kind of process in ensuring that the people that need the information the most get it. It's the same kind of framework in making use of existing platforms, be it community engagement, speaking and partnering with traditional and religious leaders within the community to put the information out there, and developing culturally sensitive messaging that are easy to understand in familiar languages to the people that you are passing this information to. That makes it easier for people to listen, understand, and use the information that you're passing across. Now, the young people of today, let me put it this way, the technological sets, the generation, the woke generation, they are all on the internet. They use different kind of digital technology. The best place to engage them is in the digital space. You have different social platforms. You have the Instagrams, you have the WhatsApp, you have the TikToks. When you try and engage young people, it is most important that you use a language and a platform that connects to them. So they have to be able to connect to the message. So using things like storytelling methodology, lived experiences, when they're able to connect to the lives of those who live with Parkinson's disease, they're able to see it by themselves, and they're able to ask questions and learn from it. It's easier for them to take this information and pass it to their peers. You have things like peer-to-peer education and mentoring. This strategy works for all forms of information and education. So taking the information we have on Parkinson's and putting it in their own space, helping them understand it, is one of the key ways that we can ensure that young people are able to pass this message. When we look at the particular lives that women live, we have to understand that there is an intersectionality when it comes to the lived experiences of women. So how a man would experience Parkinson is different from how a woman would experience it, because she has different cultural norms and social expectations that are placed on her. And this kind of interconnects with her own responsibilities, whether it's in form of homekeeping or reproduction or her own development as a person or her career. There are different expectations that she has that this reality has now changed. So we have to be able to ensure that in our communication, we are recognizing that this is a particular and specific kind of experience for women, and they are able to understand it, identify it, and pass the information to others as well. So I'll stop there for now.
Thank you very much. Now, you've spoken about so many things that cuts across challenges, most especially the ones that women face when it comes to Parkinson's. Now, if you look at, some of the women with Parkinson's that are breadwinner of their families, and we narrow it down to being able to care after being diagnosed with Parkinson's, how do you think they can advocate for themselves when it comes to Parkinson's?
I think it all boils down to the support system that is available. I don't need to tell you about how important having a support group is in helping you understand what you're going through, in helping you make sense of it, and sharing your own experience as well, and kind of giving you that moral support and mental support that you need. It's the same in the family space as well. As the breadwinner or caregiver, you need support around you. So you need the people in your family to also understand what you're going through. So it's not just about you going to support groups. We also need support groups for the members of the family of that woman as well, so that they are able to better support her. She can no longer carry the responsibility alone. She might want to, but it is physically impossible for her to do it. And that is where we need to start working on the mentality and the concept of what a family is for communities. Because we live in a highly patriarchal society that puts the burden of family care solely on the woman, and then the burden of financial responsibility on the man. Now, when a woman now has to live with Parkinson's disease, she is less able to fulfill that social responsibility that she has right now. So we need to be able to change the way the family operates. Show that there needs to be a more shared responsibility, more carried responsibility in it, that she's able to manage her current ailment, as well as continue being the woman that she wants to be in the family. But she can only do that if she has the support of her family. So we need to be able to create support groups that provide for her family as well as for her as well.
Thank you very much. And, our support group right here at the Adewunmi Desalu Parkinson Center also caters for caregivers around the member, the PD warrior. And it's important for us to understand that there is no way we can provide support without supporting the caregiver. To Ms. Omotola, what are some of the biggest barriers faced by people with Parkinson's in African communities, and how can community-driven initiatives begin to dismantle them?
Thank you, John. I'd just like to say that Ms. Robinson touched on so many important factors and key facts. Like I was having goosebumps as she was speaking, being a woman living with Parkinson's. I'm not the breadwinner in my family, but even at that, she touched on the pressure and the social pressure that women go through, being the natural caretakers of the family. So I really just wanted to thank her for her insights on that. She touched on a few other things which I'll talk about. To your question, John, I think you asked biggest barriers people with Parkinson's face in African communities. I think I'll start by saying that it's important to note that African communities is not just one thing. This is not, Africa is a vastly diverse continent, diverse economically, culturally, linguistically, and in many different ways or forms. So it's difficult, finding an honest answer to that question is both complex and multifaceted. But even if you look at Nigeria alone, the challenges that somebody will face living in a developed city like Lagos are quite different from what another person would face living in, say, a remote village in Ogun State. Nonetheless, there are some common barriers that cut across different communities, and I think for me, the one that I have found most impactful, both on a personal level and in terms of our interaction with other people living with Parkinson's across corners of Africa, is stigma. Professor Agabe, I think, touched on this earlier. Because of the symptoms that many people with Parkinson's manifest, the shaking, the slowness of movement, the stiffness, the masked expression on the face. People living with Parkinson's, particularly in the African context, where this disease is largely misunderstood, are very and highly susceptible to stigma. And the mental health effect of that, of feeling like you should be ashamed, of feeling like you're not a normal member of society. The impact of that on the mental health level is huge, and it's not something that should be downplayed. I'll give maybe a small example, because I've had several instances where this has come up, even in my family. It hasn't been, in my extended family, I haven't been diagnosed for almost 10 years now. We had a funeral a few weeks ago, a family funeral, and my father died, actually. And I was trying to prepare for my tribute, which I was going to give the next day. And my relatives came and said, look, we are going to speak tomorrow. We need to be strong. We can't be shaking. And we just need to find all the strength within you. And this person absolutely meant well. There was no ill intention in their advice, but it just made me realize and understand that even within my spaces, as much as I've been vocal about Parkinson's, as much as I talk about I'm an advocate, I'm a public advocate, even within my own space, there's still a lot of misunderstanding, not only about the symptoms of Parkinson's, but about the impact of what those types of utterances will have on me. So immediately it told me two things. Number one, as I mentioned, there's a lack of awareness even within my space. And then the second thing, which was very difficult to bear, was the idea that I got. The bottom line is, your tremors are embarrassing, your tremors are shameful. We don't really want you to be displaying this publicly for everybody to see. Just referring to harping on the fact that I needed to be strong was, intimating to me that my shaking is also seen as a sign of weakness. And that was very, very difficult to bear. That was difficult for me to handle, even though I knew that this person did not have any intention, much less people who do have intention to cause you harm or whatever. So I think stigma is a huge barrier that people with Parkinson's across the continent face, and in terms of how to address it. I think Ms. Robinson mentioned a few key things as well, and the keynote speaker also mentioned it. I think the all starts with engaging in community engagement activities. And we at Parkinson's Africa have collaborated with ADPF on several occasions. I think the most notable one would be our walking football Parkinson's disease tournament, which we've successfully held over the last 2 years. And the reason I bring walking football up is it just gives an example of over the last 2 years, the progress that we've seen and we've made. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I remember that for the first one we did in 2023, we had, I don't know, maybe 30 people with Parkinson's and their caregivers attend. Only about 3 or 4 were willing to come out publicly and let other people know that they had Parkinson's. They were afraid of the stigma, they were afraid of the implications and the repercussions that would come from that. And so they refused and did not want to speak or be identified. And then when we had one in December, the next one in December last year, the number of people with Parkinson's and their caregivers that attended tripled. And I think practically everyone, I would say 100%, as far as I'm aware, everybody that attended that had Parkinson's or was a caregiver was very fine to be identified. In fact, people with Parkinson's wore a different colored t-shirt, and everybody was fine with that. And just to see the progression in 1 year and the number of people that have decided to rise above the stigma and not let themselves be held down or be held back by people, society's perception of them, was rather inspiring and encouraging for me. And then I'll just touch on the things that Ms. Robinson has talked about. Culturally, talked about community engagement, using culturally sensitive material, things that people can identify with. And we do that. I think the keynote speaker spoke ad nauseam about this, about the booklet that Parkinson's Africa has worked on. So I think the answer to the question is community engagement, getting people active, getting people involved, and empowering them to rise above the stigma.
Thank you very much, Ma. I want to ask you one more question before I move to Ms. Rhoda. Looking ahead, what does a truly inclusive and supportive Parkinson's care community in Africa look like to you? And how can we begin to build it today? I know we currently work with the Transform Parkinson's Care in Africa. And, like Professor Mustafa has mentioned, this is more or less like one organization covering like 200 million individuals. How do we raise awareness? How do we break barriers? How do we build an inclusive and supportive environment for people with Parkinson's in Nigeria and across Africa? Thank you.
That's for me, Joe.
Yes, that's for you. Wow.
Johnny. So let me see if I can share. I know I didn't tell you this, but I don't know if it will work.
Okay.
Tell me if you can.
Yes, we can see its slide. We can see it.
So, in answering this, I just thought I would, this is a visual that we're working with and creating at Parkinson's Africa to try to explain the work that we do and where we're trying to get to. So when you asked me, I think the question was, what does an inclusive society look like for people with Parkinson's? So I think far too often, many people with Parkinson's, we've been left at the bottom of the stairs here. And, where we're trying to get to Parkinson's Africa is find ways to get those people who are at the bottom of the stairs all the way up to the top, where access to healthcare and well-being is no longer inaccessible or distant. And to do that, there are these barriers. These are not all the barriers. I've just listed a few of them to illustrate the point that we're trying to make. So an inclusive society is one where organizations like Parkinson's Africa, like ADPF, and Chapter have come together and worked together to eliminate these barriers one at a time. You take stigma, take limited awareness, limited specialists, limited training neurologists, and so on and so forth. So it's in trying to find different ways to tackle each of these issues. And the reason I like this approach is you don't have to go in and try and do everything at once. You can take it piece by piece. Take stigma, take limited specialists, take health insurance, and attack each of these issues one by one. Ultimately, what we're looking for is a ramp to be able to find a ramp to be able to overcome each and every one of those obstacles and get this gentleman from where he is at the bottom of the stairs to the top of the stairs so he can access, like every other person, healthcare and well-being resources related to Parkinson's disease. I don't know if that answers your question.
Absolutely. And this pictorial representation actually makes a lot of sense. It's showing the obstacles and how we can create pathways to get to accessible healthcare and well-being. And to you, Ms. Rhoda, I know you have worked in diverse health challenges. I don't know, what strategies can help ensure that Parkinson's care is included in broader community health and wellness campaign, especially in resource-limited settings?
Okay. So, strategies that can work.
Yeah.
One of the major issues that we have is resources, right?
Absolutely.
And apart from organizations, issues are treated in silos. Like when you're addressing Parkinson, you're working with people who work in Parkinson space. A lot of times, we recognize that, for you to be able to have a higher quality of life, there are other interrelated things that you need to work towards. You have the physiotherapist, you have the neurologist, and all that. But when you're looking at awareness creation and building that community support for Parkinson, you need to look beyond your current space. You need to look at the space of mental health. The National Mental Health Act actually has a legal framework that allows for the incorporation of other aspects of health or health issues to work with the provision of mental health care. So we need to look at things like that. How do we incorporate and integrate Parkinson's disease focus into spaces like that? Sexual and reproductive health has the same thing. You need to look at how we can leverage on already existing, established, and accepted frameworks and include Parkinson as one of the issues that we need to focus on in order to provide holistic care in that space. So when we look at it in that space, it is easier for us to say, we may not have a separate fund, or we may not have a separate act that addresses Parkinson's now, but we can include it and incorporate it in other existing ones and then leverage on that partnership, leverage on that collaboration to ensure we're able to move the awareness for the disease forward. Now, another aspect is looking at the engagement of young people. We have the National Youth Corps, the NYSC. NYSC was extremely instrumental in reducing the cases of new HIV infection in young people. It was a monumental achievement for them because they went directly to the camps and taught young people how to be peer educators when it comes to preventing HIV transmission. We can do the same thing with Parkinson's. We do not have to create another program and start pulling people into Parkinson's advocacy. We can go to already established frameworks. We at HC, we work directly with the NYC camps. So when at every camp, we are on camp, teaching young people about SRHL, teaching young people about HIV, teaching young people about personal hygiene and healthcare. We can use that same already established platform and engage young people and tell them this is what we need to do. Then Parkinson is known as the disease of the old. In other words, you get it when you're older. Young people don't get it. That is the current concept around young people. Nobody thinks of Parkinson's disease when you are in your 30s. You do not think about it. Maybe it might just be, okay, you had an accident and then it happened. But you do not associate Parkinson's as starting in your 20s or your 30s. And as she said, she had her first diagnosis when she was in her 30s as well. The most popular Parkinson case, Michael J. Fox, he had it when he was 29. A lot of people do not have this information. So if we start teaching young people to have this information and be able to pass this information, we are going to be able to address the issues of myth regarding how people get Parkinson's disease. We are going to be able to address the issue of stigma about you being able to contact Parkinson's from someone else. You are going to be able to address the issue of support that is so lacking right now on Parkinson's disease, because more people are aware of the disease. They know how to support individuals living with the disease, and they know what role they play in ensuring that
help drive that. And I think that can work also, not only for Parkinson's, for even neurodegenerative diseases across, that people are not even aware of. And now, we had like a webinar early mid of April, to work with healthcare workers, non-specialist healthcare workers, on how to identify Parkinson's disease. And we are talking about, people jackpying and the rest of it. There is so much that needs to be done with the existing structures. And we have to look at how we can incorporate what is already on ground with what we want to bring on board and utilize it to, better the lot of people with Parkinson's. So if you have any questions, please, I would like you to, put up your hand. So I'm not going to take it because our time is fast spent, but, for if you had many questions for Motola Thomas or for Ms. Rhoda Robinson, please, I can see one person. All right, second. Okay, we have questions online, absolutely. So please just send those questions to me. We're going to try to accommodate as many questions as possible. All right.
Yeah. My name is Osain Hoy Ethel Chima Wongugu. I'm a person living with type 2 diabetes for 25 years and international advocate for non-communicable disease. Coming here is like, I'm feeling guilty, really feeling guilty. I didn't know about this center. I didn't know about this strong team. But hearing her speak and the lady on and the other speaker, I'm almost hearing. I feel guilty that I didn't come forward. Now I want to ask, I love the way you spoke. In fact, I felt like catapulting you to New York, where the UN is having a meeting right now, so that you can speak for us the way you just spoke here now. I want to ask one question. The whole team is Parkinson's disease. Are you registered with non-communicable disease as a body internationally? Because I've not had Parkinson being on the table. Like I said, I'm a person living with, I'm an advocate. And we're always talking about other disease conditions, but never Parkinson. Until 2 weeks ago, that the ambassador, global ambassador, the actor, and I saw that, I said, oh God, I've really forgotten about this disease condition. Nobody's talking about it. Until I met my young friend who invited me, and I'm like, I didn't know there's a center like this. So you spoke well, but is Parkinson's disease it's not being addressed, it's not being addressed as one of the non-communicable diseases in Nigeria, in Africa, and globally. Because we just came back from Kigali discussing other non-communicable disease and how to address it. And everything you spoke about now, fantastic, it was addressed there, but not Parkinson. So leveraging, like you said, engagement, everything is same. How can we make it? But I know I'm already in love with, and I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to correct the wrongs. So I'm going to work with you. But are you aware of that? That's what I wanted to ask, one. Then two, it's not too late. This center, I apologize to everybody that I didn't know. I'm so sorry. This center, we need to be like what you are doing here now, should have been on national TV. Because what you spoke about, a lot of people are going through it. The crowd here, we are a lot. I feel guilty. I know some people, I didn't know how to help them until I heard my sister speak, and then you spoke, and the other people who spoke before you, I was listening online before I got here. It needs to be discussed in the family. It needs to be on the table. It needs to be in the workplace. It needs to be on air. Because you see me, I'm the face of diabetes, and I'm not ashamed, like she said. So please, can we move this discussion to a bigger table? And it's not like we are postponing it. No, it is now. That's just what I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Are you going to start? So let me just go. Okay. Yes, I am. We're open. Okay. All right.
Ask brilliant questions.
Thank you very
Your
much.
questions are so deep. I really want to comment that too.
Thank you very much. So we will take this conversation immediately after this meeting. Yes, I have heard of non-communicable disease, but we have not been able to penetrate the association, and I'm glad you are here. And this is one of the reasons why we are having programs like this, because if you don't blow your trumpet, there is nobody that will help you blow it. And we are here to raise awareness. So I'm going to throw it to Ms. Omotola Thomas. Have you heard of non-communicable disease in Africa? In Nigeria, in Africa, and let's see how we can integrate that into what we do. Thank you, Ms. Omotola.
Thank you, John. I didn't get the lady's name. Can you tell me what her name is again, please?
My name is Osaenhoy, Lion Osaenhoy Ethel Chima Wongugu. You can Google it, so you can see my involvement. So I'm also a member of the Our Views, Our Voices Global Advisory Committee, because this is what I'm going to take in there. I'm representing Nigeria, Africa in that platform. So you can be there too.
Thank you so much, Mr. Simon. Your passion is absolutely infectious, and your drive is so inspiring and encouraging. I do know that there are societies for non-communicable disease. Yeah. We haven't looked or penetrated deeply into that. I think when you were speaking, one of the things that I realized was that, specifically at Parkinson's Africa, I think maybe we've been quite focused on, and we've done a good job of collaborating with other organizations within the Parkinson's space, both in Africa and outside of Africa. But what you have just said has just opened up my mind, to us being able to expand that beyond just Parkinson's organizations. We have thought about expanding into neurological disease, now looking for organizations that deal with Huntington. I know that Huntington disease, Africa, look for organizations that maybe do something about Alzheimer's. But you are not the same. No, let's even expand this even further from not just Parkinson's, not just neurological disease. Let's go and get more support from the non-communicable disease community as a whole. It is not something that we have focused on, but I promise you, you have given us an assignment, and we will get on it also. Not tomorrow, today.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for what I'm saying.
Absolutely. All right.
Yes, and just to add to what Omotola
Thank you.
said. So Nigeria has a very big NCD movement from both the federal and state levels. And majority of their focus, or let me not say majority, their primarily not focused on neurodegenerative conditions like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. Majority of the time, they look at non-communicable diseases on a larger scale that affects more people more of the time, and that it's easier to prevent, right? Now, one way to ensure that Parkinson is put on the table is to ensure that more people are talking about it. The way Parkinson is almost limited to only people that are aged or people of financial means. So it doesn't really come to the light of a young man or the public's problem, right? So until we are able to show the urgency of addressing Parkinson, that's when we are going to we are able to say that, oh, we're able to put it on the table. Let's start pushing for investment into research in this space, because we need research.
Absolutely.
We need research into drugs. We need research into management. We need research into understanding the disease itself within the Nigerian space, and it's highly limited. I think a couple of days ago when I was just doing preliminary research on this, the amount of data I found from Nigeria was not up to 10 that I could actually leverage on. But when you compare that to the numerous data that came from the global north, like the European countries and all that, you find that there is this imbalance to it. So we need to be able to build up that evidence that we can take to the table and say, this is going to be a pandemic, just as how diabetes is currently one of the major things that we are focusing on, just like how cardiac issues, hypertension are one of the NCDCs that is a high focus, even within the DHIS and within the Nigerian demographic health system. So we need to be able to say, this neurodegenerative disease also needs that kind of light to ensure we are able to manage it properly for this generation and the future generation. So it starts with deliberate awareness and deliberate partnerships with the institutions that are involved.
Thank you very much. Deliberate awareness, deliberate partnership. One more question in person. Okay, 2 more questions in person, then 1 online. That's all. Please, if you have any other question, just take note of it. We are going to send it to the panelists. We are pressed to, close. So please, let's manage the time well. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Ike Oji, and I think she has addressed most of my questions, because anytime she speaks, it's as if she's speaking to me. She addresses all the questions. But I also want to look at the aspect of education of caregivers, because I have heard of PD before now, but I became concerned when my mother was diagnosed, and I was worried. I started doing research, and until she came to this wonderful foundation. Please, I want to appreciate you guys. And
thank you.
The pamphlet that was shared, that was distributed into different languages. When I read it, I was amazed. I now had great insights as to what PD is all about, and it's courtesy of this organization. I want to thank you. But I also want to see how this organization can leverage, like she rightly pointed out, existing organization like my organization that I work with. I am a member of the MBA. If they can partner with such professional organization, because, MBA, the Nigerian Bar Association. Nigerian Bar Association. If we can work with such organizations that are already established, that have, because if the formal organization are not that incorporated, I wonder how the informal organization would be. So because we have to bring this education down it has to trickle down from the up. Down, because when the former people in the former organization, they know they can pass it down. Yeah. Because I would not lie to you, I have watched movie where they talked about PD, but I did not understand what it entails until my beautiful mother was diagnosed. So I would want it to be an all-encompassing engagement. Let it not just be in the sense that we are looking at just the grassroots. Up there, likewise, the professional bodies, all organizations, like she rightly pointed out, what they call it, the youth corpus should be incorporated and every other thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. And please, Thank you. We have noted that, and we are taking the advocacy top, bottom, bottom, top. I think you understand that. Top, bottom, bottom, top. All right. The last in-person, question. Somebody is blocking somebody's car, and they are on my neck to ensure that the car is moved. So it's I don't know, FST 765FL. If you are the owner of the car, they make. I don't have that. So please, if you don't have that question, if you don't have that, that means, all right. So please go ahead, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Thank God that we are here. I'm
Thank you,
really
ma'am.
blessed. But it's all that I want to say is that there is no much awareness about the Parkinson of a thing. And we really need to create more awareness. Because even spiritually, I just noticed in the church, even to take it to the Lord, they pray about, they call other diseases, and so you don't hear them mentioning Parkinson.
Okay. All right.
That's how, they don't mention Parkinson. It's only God that takes care of those people that have Parkinson. So, but we need to create awareness. Like, I'm not a neurology, but in my area, I see people that I can see that they have Parkinson, but they keep on going to church. Even if they go to church, they see other pastor, a doctor, but not neurologist. There is a friend over 2 years now. I've been going there, ask her to come with me here to come and listen to, but she says she's okay. And she's getting deteriorated. I'm not happy about it. She could not walk again. She's on Pampers, like that. And like when I even tell some people know that I say I have Parkinson, it's like they don't take it serious. As if, what is that? It's not, but if you say somebody has diabetes or something, they start panicking. So we really need to create more awareness, about it.
Thank you very much, Ma. I'm just going to read, thank you very much, awareness, awareness, awareness. And that's why we cannot overflog this kind of panel session. Thank you very much, Ms. Rhoda Robinson and Ms. Omotola Thomas. Imagine if Ms. Omotola Thomas has not come out to talk about her disease. Where are we going to be today? It's just a question I'm throwing to everybody. Imagine if she did not come out to talk about her symptoms. All right. How can integrative healthcare be integrated into PD management in view of the fact that integrative Medicare seems to produce better results in the PD care? So what is integrative healthcare? Can you answer the question? Okay. All right. Ms. Omotola Thomas, do you understand what integrative healthcare means? Can you hear me? How can integrative healthcare be integrated into PD management in view of the fact that integrative Medicare seems to produce better results in PD care? So I'm trying to integrative.
Yeah, so I think it's already like.
Okay, Prof, can you answer the question, please?
I think maybe, let's go.
From my own understanding, probably is the multi-disciplinary approach to treatment. You understand? Physiotherapy, taking care of, mobility, and the doctor taking care of, the medical challenges, the dietitian taking care of, the diet, constipation, and it's multidisciplinary approach to treatment of patient. Okay, the psychiatrist taking care of the psychiatric symptoms.
Thank you very much, sir. And that's what we do here at the Adewunmi Desalu Parkinson Center. We integrate multidisciplinary team. So speech, dance, physiotherapy, occupational therapists, all of it work together to slow down the progression of Parkinson's disease. Someone said, okay, sorry. There is a need for federal government to establish national rehabilitation center across Nigeria. This can bring different professions. Please, before federal government can actually do this, they need to see the numbers, data. If the data is not there, that's why we are calling on people to talk, come outside, talk. More especially young onset Parkinson's warrior. It's important for you to talk so that people can understand this. Okay, okay, somebody, there's a question. Okay, they are sending it to my phone. Okay. All right, how does depending on drug to fall asleep affect a PD patient? Does it affect the brain? This is a question I think Prof can answer for us. Thank God you are still here. How does depending on drugs to fall asleep affect a PD patient? Does it affect the brain?
Well, it doesn't affect the brain. It can lead to addiction. That's the only thing. If the patient's sleep improve, one can taper the drug and stop it. You understand? It's not something that they will continue to use, forever. Okay? So it doesn't have anything to do with the brain, but it can lead to dependence. It can lead to addiction.
Addiction. Thank you very much, sir. I am hypertensive and living with PD. I have discovered that my BP drops suddenly whenever I take my Cinnamate tablet. Does the drug contribute to this? Prof. Hypertension. Okay.
So one has to be careful. One can use lower dose preparation. The one that's commonly available here is the 250-25, 275. You can use the lower preparation, the 125, 110. In UK, you have the 50, 12.5. So those one have less side effects.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Please, I'm going to round up. From Ms. Omotola Thomas, can we have your final, word for the participants? And, just give us something to inspire the Parkinson's community in Africa.
I will try. I think, from my perspective, one of the things that I've been thinking about before coming here was, how to integrate the voices of people living with Parkinson's into the healthcare decision-making process. And before Ms. I don't want to pronounce her name, Osayeho spoke, one of the things that I was going to say was that we can't really do it without government. If we're not invited to the table, we can't have a seat at it. Policy change depends on political will. And unless health systems open the door to patient voices, real inclusion cannot happen. And just, hearing her speak and the passion behind her voice and her drive has just altered that perspective and that vantage point, which is, and where I am now is, if we're not invited to the table, we will go to the dining room where they are and stand there and knock on the door and bang on the door and do whatever it is we need to do in order to get invited to the table. But in order for us to do this, we need, in order for patients to be able to use their voice, we need to empower them. You can't have somebody use their voice when their voices have been damaged by stigma, suppressed by limited awareness, or silenced by social and educational barriers. So, our job and our mandate, is to find ways to educate people, empower them, and just bring everybody together so that we can be the driving force. We, people with Parkinson's, we can find our voices, use those voices, and be the driving force behind the change that we are seeking. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rhoda Robinson.
So I just want to say, we don't always have to be the source, but we can be the signpost. So use your platform, whatever it is, to point people to the right direction. Yeah. Show them what they need to know. If they ask a question and you don't have the answer, because you can't have all the answers. send them to John. He will answer everything for them. So please engage with your communities. Talk more about it. Don't wait for Parkinson Day before you talk about Parkinson's disease. It affects everybody. So let's use our platforms well.
Thank you very much. Please, let's put our hands together for our panelists, Mrs. Omotola Thomas, the founder of Parkinson's Africa, and Ms. Rhoda Robinson, Executive Director, HC Health Initiative. It has been a fantastic time, engaging and discussing about, communities for better Parkinson's care, fresh approaches. And I'm sure you have learned one or two things. Please, use the platform you have to make the noise. And Mr. Motola said something. If they don't give us platform, we are going to knock and enter into their dining room until they give us the platform. So the car that is, is Renault car, please, Renault. So if you know your car is a Renault, please, I think you are blocking somebody. So thank you very much, Ms. Rhoda Robinson. I think we should snap with Mrs. Omotola Thomas at the background. So please, Professor Kimberly from Leeds University, Leeds, will be having a goodwill message. Then we'll have the closing remark. So please, let's have her.
Can everybody hear me okay?
All right. Thank you. All right. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, John.
All right.
I'm zooming in from Italy, where I'm working on a project. I am a poet with Parkinson's disease, with young onset Parkinson's disease, and I was fortunate enough to meet the team at the World Parkinson's Congress 2 years ago now. Time is flying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was just so impressed by all the work that's being done and the literal sort of ground up way of thinking. And it's borne out by this conversation, the way that people are talking on the macro level, on the micro level, on the personal level. And I especially appreciate the way that all the questions in the chat are being dealt with. And it's been really positive for me to see that, because I did not necessarily see that at the World Parkinson's Congress, which goes back to the comments about, getting a seat at the table as people with Parkinson's, but especially people with Parkinson's in places where there's less resources. I think those are the voices that need to be centered in any conversation that's had about Parkinson's, and I say that as someone from the global north. So as a poet, I often think about, the deeper questions of life, and I suppose one of the deep questions of life is, why do I have this disease? I don't know, and I don't think I can answer that, but we can say, some people think that illness gives people special powers, or if they want to attach stigma, that it's a sign of something terrible or some kind of punishment. And I don't buy any of that. I think illness is not a destiny, it's not a purpose, it has no purpose, and it's not an inspiration, it just is. It just is. And many poets, including myself, would suggest that illness and death are quite simply give those of us who experience illness as we're alive, and we all will at some stage. It gives us the special power to need. We need. And so if we have that power, if we have a special power, it's to show people, every one of us, the power we already have, which is to both need and to care for each other. And as I mentioned, I'm in Italy, and I'm actually working on a kind of Parkinson's-oriented translation of Dante's Divine Comedy from the perspective of a poet called Kimberly, who has Parkinson's. And in that research, of course, I've found out that the West African Pilot newspaper from your very, very prominent first president uses a quote from Dante, "Show the light and the people will find the way," as the motto. And that comes from Dante's idea of, he takes the very final line of the Divine Comedy is, "The love that moves the sun and the other stars." And I just feel like, as a person with Parkinson's, a movement disorder, movement is a good thing. Any kind of movement, whether it's the micro-level movement, the macro-level movement, the sense that every kind of voice that we just heard is literally saying all the things that must happen. And I'm totally confident that we can make things happen. That is what Dante says. And so I thought I would just actually do a little poeming for you. And so this poem is a concrete poem, so it looks like a little flower. And it's a bit of Dante's Inferno 2, which, with Parkinson's, right, Inferno, hell, whatever we might want to call it, it kind of happens off and on throughout the day, sometimes throughout the hour. And so I'm trying to reflect that experience that there, Dante's descent into hell and rising up. For us, it's a bit like this, all along. And so all through each of the sections of this, I'm trying to see the hope, the light, the love, the sense of connection that we have, because that connection of Parkinson's is what's allowing me to speak to you today. So as tough as it is, I think we can make something of it. So I will read this, and then I'll leave you to move forward. So this is my version of Dante, inspired by, I fight this river of death. Its power exceeds the greatest sea. The way I look brings you to tears sometimes. So I hand myself over to the light, like those little flowers at the end of night. I open up. I note you have so awakened my heart's desiring through the journeying of your words. I return to this adventure's beginning. The path, steep, rough, somehow I move. Thank you very much for inviting me to listen and to be with you today.
Thank you very much, Professor Kimberly Campanello from University of Leeds. Thank you very much. Our time is fast spent, and we are grateful for the knowledge that has been shared. We are grateful for everything that we have received today. We are rounding up, and as we draw a curtain to today's event, I want you to mark your calendar. 26th, Saturday, 26th of July, 2025, sorry. We will be having our Move for PD. It's an awareness walk. On Saturday, we're going to move from here all the way to the stadium, raising awareness and raising fund for people with Parkinson's. To draw the curtain to today's program, I would like to appreciate everybody and invite Dr. Kachi Onubogu, one of our governing board members, to give us the closing remarks. Please put your hands together for him. Thank you. Put your hands together. I won't drop the mic.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to make these few remarks. I sat down here and listened extensively to the professors, the doctors, and everybody who has spoken today. And every time I sit down here, it inspires me. It inspires me because I understand that, like the prof said, Parkinson's is just life. Life happens. Whether it's you have it or you don't have it, happens. But more importantly, it also reminds me that there's none of us that cannot have Parkinson's. There's nothing different in us that makes us say, I don't have it. Irrespective of our religious beliefs or our beliefs, because we all tend to say, it's not my portion. It's nobody's portion. It's just the way it is. So when I go through this every time, it reminds me that we all have a responsibility to keep speaking about things like this. Because it can happen to anybody. I mean, Prof said that 70 out of 100,000 Nigerians will probably have Parkinson's or a bit more. I looked at it online. It means that all of us here know up to 200,000 people. So it means that all of us here will one day in our life know somebody who has Parkinson's. And our own job is not to stigmatize or tell them it's a spiritual attack or tell them this is. It's to say, look, it just happened and we must keep moving on. And so I want to use the opportunity to say thank you to everybody who has spoken. I want to first say thank you very much for enlightening us and for taking our time to share with us your knowledge on Parkinson's. I took this because I said to myself, I'll go around and also advocate. Somebody said we should advocate. You know, we tend not to advocate because we think it's not our problem. But everybody here, it wasn't their problem, but for people, it just is. So I ask and pray that all of us have the grace and the courage to speak up about Parkinson's. Because whether it affects us or affects our family, it's something that can be dealt with. The other group of people I want to say a big thank you to is to everybody who is suffering the disease and has struggled and worked out to come here. We tend to like to hide issues we have. Nigerians hide. When you have sick children, sometimes you hide them. When your parents are ill, you hide them. We tend to hide because we want to put up this face that all of us, everything is okay. That's how we know that either we're very good Christians or very good Muslims or very good traditionalists. Things are working for us. But again, I like what the professor said. Life happens. It's not about what you did or what you didn't do. It's just that in our lives, we will fall sick someday. In our lives, we will be born. In our lives, we will die. It's just life. And if we accept his life, then we have to be proud for everybody who can come out and say, yes, I have Parkinson's, but I stand here proudly to say I have Parkinson's, and there's no problem with it. Because once we can do that and make people understand that there's nothing wrong in it, there's nothing wrong in shaking, there's nothing wrong in it, it's just life, then maybe we can start changing the stigma that we all face. So for everybody who is what we call our PD warriors, who are working, fighting, standing for this disease and beating it, I want to say thank you. You all make us proud and give us hope that, look, it's okay. It's okay. Whatever we go through, working towards it, embracing it, and fighting with it, fighting against it helps us, and it's okay. The third thing I want to say is thank you for everybody who has put this together, the foundation, the board, the staff. I think we should do it more often. I think we should take it out more often. We must keep speaking about it because many people didn't know. When Mrs. Thomas was speaking, I'll be very honest. I never thought young people have Parkinson's. I'll be honest. I'll be first to say, I'm here in this foundation, but in my head, it didn't click. I always thought, you have to get old to have Parkinson's. And the courage she has exhibited and taking time to lead the PD Africa Foundation and keep pushing the messaging and coming out there, not just as somebody who is suffering, but an advocate of it, is quite amazing. And so again, I want to say thank you. For all of us who have come here from different walks of life, we have one task or two tasks. One is to speak to Parkinson's, speak about it. The second is to tell our families and friends to also speak about it. There's nothing wrong to speak about it and make people understand that everybody can go through it, but there are ways to slow down the scale of its impact on you. There are ways to improve the quality of life. And there are people who are committed on a day-to-day basis, whether it's ADPF, whether it's PD Africa. There are communities and people who are committed on a daily basis to improve the quality of life of everybody who has Parkinson's. It is our responsibility. The last point I want to say is, when we all registered, we all got these pamphlets. The ADPF Foundation and this center is a non-profit center. So everything we do is built on support, either from support from the Desalu, support from the board, and support from people who have been kind to invest in, to help us drive this messaging. Some people spoke about drugs. We support people with drugs. Somebody raised a question on the chat about, do we have emotional support for caregivers? we do that. But what I want to challenge everybody, it's not just about having this for you. We have friends. When you read through this pamphlet, you see a lot about Parkinson's that many of us don't know. If I step out on this road, then many people don't know about it because we believe it doesn't, in Nigerian parlance, it no concern me. But what I will encourage everybody is two things. One, take this as many as you can. Share with friends, family, and even foes, because we need to know about Parkinson's. And everyone who can support us, please support us. The goal will be to keep expanding the amount of people. Our desire, and I can say it, is to think about how to make a bigger center. When the prof was speaking about the lack of the deep brain stimulation machines and MRI machines and stuff, what I said to my other board member was, it's an opportunity. Why can't we have it in our facility where the prof can say, instead of recommending people to go and look for a way to do this, they can come in and do that in the facility and then benefit from the facility, what we have in the facility, the training, the counseling, the mentoring, the writing, development. Why can't we do that? We can only do that when we have the funding and support to do that. So I plead with every one of you, where you can support, these forms are there, you can endow, you can give programs, you can even pay for medication for people. I mean, so, people say, okay, if you think that you're blessed and want to say, I'm 30 years old and I want to pay for medication for 30 people for 1 year, we can do that, and you'll know those who have supported their medication drive. So support us where you can, but more importantly, please also tell your friends and family to support, because Parkinson's disease is no respecter of person, neither is it a choose, permit my English, a disease that chooses anybody. Anybody can have it, but more importantly, it's also okay. So on behalf of the board, the ADPF, I want to say thank you. Thank you for making that time to come in. Thank you for spending time up to the time. I pray that, like he said, at the work in June, we'll all be present to work for PD. And July. But more importantly, not just will we be present, we'll bring our friends and family to show support that, look, it's okay to have PD. We have a group that are working to make sure that our lives are better. Thank you very much, and God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And please, on your way out, if you still want to check, the facility that we have here, you can go around and check. We have lunch for us. And the tea break is gone. Okay, we have lunch for us, so you can lunch on us. Just grab your lunch as you go. Thank you. We cannot thank you enough. You understand? And we appreciate you for this. For our online participants, most especially, thank you for staying up to this moment. We also have people at the overflow, at the gym. We have some people, watching us live from the gym, because this place cannot take everybody. We appreciate you. We appreciate your courage. We thank you for everything. You want to say something? Okay, we are rounding up already. Please. Okay, suggestion. Okay.
Like we said, data is key. Can we have a group photograph of all participants?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I was coming to that, actually. So please, before you go, we have, oh my God, it's already down. Can we just have a group photograph for everybody? If you are here, can we go outside and just snap outside, please? We can snap beside the wall. Okay. All right. Okay. All right then. Thank you very much. Please. Thank you so much for coming. We hope we enjoyed every bit of it.
Thank you.